And we are live once again for GRAPPL FPL. I'm Benno. Joining me, Andy Ogden and Jamesie. It's been a little while, lads. You know, only a few weeks. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the FPL world to check in on. Lots of plans going forward, going back. But the main question I got to ask you, lads: do you enjoy the World Cup? Was it good? Have a good time? Enjoy watching it? Yeah. It's been a while. It's the point.
Many years ago was that?
Another lifetime.
Jesus. It's only like a month since it ended, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like, I was looking at it, it feels like, because obviously we've been away for a few game weeks. We've been trying to arrange to do one of these for a little while now, so it's good to be back in the saddle. But we only missed like 4 or 5 game weeks. That's all it is. But it feels like a lot more. It feels like you say, that World Cup period. Like, you were playing the World Cup FPL, weren't you? I didn't bother. I took the break. Maybe that's part of getting out of the swing of things.
I don't know. I would say I took the World Cup one quite seriously, just because our Jeff was taking it seriously, and he ended up winning by about 100 points in our little mini league. But no, I was enjoying it. You know, even without the fantasy football, it was still a great tournament. Shame it was in Qatar, but hey ho, yeah. it's all been good. It's been same old shit watching Rochdale, bloody bottom of the table at the moment. So yeah,
Did you do much business in the transfer window?
Sorry,
did you do much business in the transfer window?
Yeah, we supposedly signed the best defender in the National League, which is a good thing. But as soon as he puts on a Rochdale shirt, he'll turn to mud like the others. Just signed a lad from Norwich on loan, who was one of our ex-youth players. But hopefully we've made about 5 signings now, and they can't be any worse than what we've already got. We need to seriously get off that bottom of the table, or we'll be playing Southport away next season.
It can come down, have a few beers around town. We can do. I saw Everton. Well, Everton's under 21s play at Southport Stadium, don't they? So we could make it work. How about you, Jamesie? Have you been? How's the a long break? But how's things? You've nothing to brag about today. No particular reason why you might have been game for an FPL podcast. Or is this going to be the curse? Is everything going to go wrong? After we've had you on. You're must be getting a nosebleed in those heights you're on in the FPL Proper League right now.
It's getting scary. Yeah. Like it's been a good few weeks. Maybe coming on here every week talking about FPL was a distraction.
It's the curse, isn't it?
We blame Linné. All his heat maps and everything was distracting me. I should have just stuck to watching football. I had more time to just watch normal football, good old fashioned watch what's happening on the grass and make my decisions based on that. I'm sure we'll look at the ranks later. But going back to the World Cup, I didn't bother with the World Cup FPL at all. I went onto the website and said I'd give this a go, and I started reading the rules, and it was like it was too fucking complicated. It was like it was.
Didn't it break halfway through?
There was somebody found it. They didn't. Because I'd be on FPL Twitter quite a lot, and people had found some kind of a loophole where they could change their players halfway through the game week, and you could switch your captain after they've played. Like I'm used to the simplicity of I just want my deadline, make my picks, and then sit back and do nothing until the next deadline. I want a simple game. All this chopping and changing.
That's why I was loving it, Jamesy. That's why I was loving it, because I'd love to touch the production at that.
Chips every day. And
my captain's only got 2 points. Come on.
Transfers left, right, and centre.
I've had that feeling before where like the app is kind of like messed up a bit, and like there's definitely with the bad versions of the proper FPL app where I've logged in and it's looked like it's like been the wrong team from a few weeks ago, or like you're thinking, is there because I've always thought that is there a way I could hack this and make it so that I could have like more transfers but it never worked. I just can't believe it happened in real life that a game went that badly, and they changed the rules, didn't they, a couple of days before it went live as well. That was the other thing. I was away at the time, and I was just like, you know what, I'll watch the World Cup and enjoy it for what it is, which actually did more so than I would normal years. Maybe that's something to do with not playing the game, but as Chris Elliott says here in the chat, he gave up halfway through the groups. That's the thing with the World Cup ones; they're always fun at the start, aren't they? And then halfway through, it's a bit like doing an FPL podcast. You drift off, it happens.
Staying power goes after a while. I tell you though, that final was something else, wasn't it? Like as almost a cultural event, like the whole world watching. Like it's so rare that finals properly deliver. You know what I mean? And you actually like they're mostly cagey teams afraid to make mistakes. Just unbelievable stuff. And both Messi and Mbappe, 2 hat-tricks in a final, like. God, I feel like I'm having to dig at the back of my brain to remember all this stuff. It's like that match that happened so long ago. I was thinking it was 2 hat-tricks, wasn't it? Yeah, or was it 2 hat-tricks?
Don't check your podcast players, folks. This did come out this week. It is February.
February,
Well, we learned a lot of things from it. You came home a big Brighton fan as well, James. That was the other big thing I've noticed since then. You've become like one of their biggest booster. I think the world's they're the world's like Southampton now, aren't they? Where it's like everyone's just like trying to pick them off. Literally the entire transfer window is about who could get who from there. Like, but they keep regenning better players. It's like playing FIFA or like sensible soccer or something like that. They find someone, don't they, somewhere?
Yes, I just like. In a league where there's just money been thrown around left, right, and centre, and you look at their first 11, and it's like Evan Ferguson that they plucked from over here when he was 19 years of age, probably cost them 10 grand or something like that. Mitoma, Caicedo, all these players like that are just phenomenal footballers, bought for nothing, that they'll sell on, you know, and you fear, like, remember when Southampton were getting cleaned out, you kind of feared for them. You feel like Brighton have such a good model and have such a system in place that they already have the backups for these guys tucked away somewhere in their reserve team. We don't even know about them yet. You know what I mean?
I always remember with Southampton when they were just, you know, starting to become good. A lot of them players came when they were playing in League One. Remember Rochdale beating them 2-0 at their place. But having all them, you like your Lamberts, your Lallanas, with Jose Fonte as well.
Yeah.
And
Virgil,
Yeah, and they went straight up to the Premier League, and then Liverpool come knocking and they dropped the pants, didn't they, straight away?
Yeah, but I don't know. It just feels different with Brighton. It feels like they're more sale-proof. And as I said, like they're just constantly scouting. They're constantly picking up these talents. They just have a really good system worked out. And like the football that they play as well. Like if anything, I think they've actually taken another step forward under this new manager. Like I watched them twice recently play Liverpool, passed Liverpool off the pitch in both games. Like fair and square. You know, if you didn't know better, you would have said that the team in blue were the team that nearly won the quadruple last season. Like, you know, just really, really good. Just a lot to admire about them. You know what I mean? In a league that's fairly grotesque for the most part in terms of all the money being thrown around. And
I will say he used to manage Sassuolo in Italy, and like, you know, for seasons they'd be a banker for putting on your both teams to score, Coogan, and you're over 2.5 goals. You know, some of the scores they'd win or lose by, they're excellent. You can see he's doing the business with Brighton now, isn't he?
Absolutely.
We were worried about them way back when, but there they go. They're doing all right. Should probably be more worried about the likes of Everton. I was going to ask about the transfer window. It's a sore subject during these parts. Spoke to my dad on the phone today. Not happy. My uncles aren't happy. Every one of my family members on Facebook is based on their status is not doing very well right now. But yeah, better transfer windows for other teams. I was at my mum's yesterday, and my stepdad's a Liverpool supporter and my brother, and they were like, "Oh." So your stepdad was going, "Oh, it's just terrible, isn't it? Like, it's just." I'm glad, you know, you younger generation, you know, you haven't really been through this before, but you know, I went through this in the 80s. You know, we had that great period, and then we started to fall down. I'm just sitting there like I'm not the biggest Evertonian in the world, but I was just like, all right, like I'm here in the room, like
it's all relative.
I'd rather be you, like, come on, it's horrendous. Like, Anthony Gordon going out, and then literally no one coming in. Like, there's been protests, all kinds. It's been honestly molten around here. I watched Sean Dyche's press conference today, and it's just, he's cool as a cucumber. He's trying to just be like, you know, everything's gonna be fine. But yeah, it's been a horrendous few days around here, but better for some other teams. It's been an interesting transfer window overall. I reckon one to you know, not what it's not been, you know, the most exciting, but it's not been one of those boring ones where they're desperately, you know, knocking on the window of Harry Redknapp's car trying to get any kind of bit of information out. It's been Brighton a part of that, aren't they? But there's been a bit to talk about.
Chelsea. I mean, how much money they're spending on? Well, some of them can turn out to be bang average foreign players, can't they?
What happened with the who was it that they were trying to get rid of them? Did they get the paperwork over the line? With the like they didn't send the right attachment on the email or something. I got one of those stories. It was Ziyech, wasn't it? Yeah, I've noticed he's sitting free and pretty in the draft right now. Like, how did that happen? Like, the admin girl didn't send the right email at like 10 to 11 or something. Like,
and the two clubs are blaming each other for it. So I don't know why it wouldn't be in Chelsea's interest to get it done, because surely they need to get rid of a few players, you know.
There's been another one like this past, I think, last 24 hours. Blackburn tried to sign 2 players, but that same again with the paperwork not getting in time, and it's all Blackburn's fault. And you know, supporters are having a go at them as well. It's just, you always think to yourself, why do you leave it to the last minute and all that? I'm sure there's a reason why, because there's medical documents and. You know, dealing with agents is the main thing, isn't it? How much cut they want.
That's what blows my mind about it, because you imagine it in your head as like, you know, the chairman or the managers or the agents are all sitting down getting all this stuff done, and I'm sure they are, and it's all going back and forth. But in reality, you can say you've got all this modern technology and we've all moved on. It's literally just somebody sending an email with some attachments. Like someone's boring office job is to attach the right PDF, and they send a PDF instead of a doc, and it's going to, a Word document. It's going to ruin everything. You send the wrong attachment. It's going to ruin. It still comes down to that, doesn't it? It's still humans. It's still fax machines going back and forth. It's just
it's on an open office file.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Remember De Gea? But was it 5 or 6 years ago? And only for a fax machine breaking down, he'd be a Real Madrid player now. And they were, I saw some, Chris Ellis just said the same thing in the chat there, like, And for some reason, they had to use fax for the legitimacy of the signatures or something. It had to be the old-fashioned fax. I don't know if that's still the case now, but I don't know. I still think United just didn't send it on time and just said, "Oh, sorry, the fax machine broke. We'll just have to keep them," kind of a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, there's the only places fax machines still are now. It's like your local print and copy shop and Premier League football clubs. That's it, just in case you need it there as the backup. But as viewers might see, no Crystal NA this week. We'll hopefully get him back for next time. Might have a couple of guests ringing in there later on when we get to the draft stuff, but. As I said earlier, we are here mainly for Jamesie to gloat, but I know Andy's got a bit of gloat.
Andy to gloat. Hold on now.
I'm going to hide in the corner when the gloating goes on, because I haven't had a great period. Might be another reason why I haven't been super keen to get back on here and accept my punishment and put it out there publicly. But yeah, Jamesie, incredible run for you so far. Like I say, Andy as well has had a great run so far. But I'll bring up the FPL, the GRAPPL League that we've got here. As far as we go, like right now, it is absolutely just kind of close. I think in the proper league we've got there, like Sammy Enders, Mark Bleakley. Don't think he was in the mix last time we checked in. Jamesie, you're sitting pretty in third there. Our friend the Russian is
the Romanian,
sorry, sitting there. He's had a
bad
period. Yeah, was that your main target?
I was aiming for him, and then suddenly this Mark Bleakley, like if you click into his team, he's like in the top 20 or something overall.
Yeah. 21, isn't it?
21 overall. I don't know. I think we might have to kick him out.
That's insane. Like, did anyone watching? If you know Mark Bleakley, put him in touch. We need it on the podcast.
We did. Look at this thing. Top of all his leagues.
But these are like big time leagues, like FPL Black Boxes League,
yeah.
Green Arrows League. Yeah, like Let's Talk FPL's league. He's top of second in Andy's league. I assume it's one of us from the wrestling community, but I wanted to bring this up first just because you've been doing the detective work. I mean, James, trying to figure out who he is.
I'll do a bit of looking before the next episode and try and find out who he is, because I'm sure he's on Twitter. Like you wouldn't be doing that well and not be a fairly engaged fan, like, you know what I mean, and be engaging in that FPL community online and that kind of thing for sure. Yeah.
Well, you're headed towards it, to that kind of category, Jamesie. But we'll look at that league in a bit more detail later on. But to go into the GRAPPL FPL league, for us, it is a very pretty picture for you, Jamesie, sitting there pretty right on top right now. Right ahead of Jordan, 1,336 is your total points. We'll get to your overall rank in a second and have a look at that. But yeah, and an incredible period for you so far this year, Jamesie. Is it literally the not podcasting that's turned things around for you?
Maybe
there might be something to it, mate.
If I plummet this week, I'm never coming on again. Simple as that. It's
ridiculous.
It's just. And all it has been is just playing very solidly. Like I know it's not a word we like to use, but the template, sticking to that as much as I can. Like it was pretty much tiny green arrows every week, and then a couple of things went my way this week or last week, which again feels like so long ago because of the cup games. A couple of small things went my way that really pushed me up. I had like most people have Luke Shaw at the back. I couldn't. I had to bring him in for the last time United doubled. I think it was 19 or 20, but I didn't have enough money for him, so I went and got Lisandro Martinez instead, just to kind of match his points or whatever. And he scored against Arsenal, and because he's so low ownership, it just, that goal alone just shot. I was sitting on something like 60 or 70,000, and then his goal went in, and I was up around 16,000 all of a sudden. It was like, my God, it just goes to show one little thing like that can really just, shoot you up the table, really,
It's absolutely insane. Like, I've got your rise since we last recorded from game week 17, like onwards there. Like, your overall rank 75,000 at that point. It's green arrow, green arrow, green arrow, like you say, like incremental point wise, and like your game week ranks kind of, it's not like your top 10,000 each of those weeks, but you're in the upper echelons of the millions there. This week accepted, game week 21, where you're in the top 31,000 in the world for your game week score this week, the 98 points. But like that rise there from like the outskirts more of the top 100,000 into close to the top 20,000 at this point. It's for me and Crystal in it's a little bit of like, oh, it can happen. We can move. Things can happen. We can move up the league. Like, it's great to see, really, because that's the thing. Historically, like, you watch any of the FPL shows on YouTube or anything, everyone always talks about top 10K, don't they? And I think that was the big thing 4 or 5 years ago. Or maybe even 3 years ago, but like the game is so packed now. There's so many people playing. I saw during the break, I saw a big graph someone made of like the engagement of teams overall over the last few years, and it's like doubled and doubled and doubled, and like it's like 10 times what it was now, like it was 3 years ago. If you finish there or thereabouts, like that's like almost as good as you can get.
In it about 11.6 million, I think, are in the game now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like my aim is to stay. If I could stay in the top 50K, even 100K, I'd be ecstatic. You know what I mean? And there's been no big plan. You know what I mean? I've been it's actually been as boring as possible. It really has been. Like if you look at the transfers I've made over those few weeks, they've all been fairly boring, steady. Like it's nearly a case of looking at the overall ownership of players and trying to get as many of the highly owned players into the team as possible. Like double Newcastle defense has been really good for me. Things like that. Kepa in goal has been pretty good. He's had some really good scores. The Arsenal lads have ticked over a little bit. Not having Liverpool, when we did the wild card after the World Cup, I kind of just said, you know what? I'm just going to leave Liverpool because they've, I had Salah for most of the season on and off. I'd had some of I've had 2 of their defenders in the fucking draft all season, and that's what's killed me because they can't buy a clean sheet. They don't keep clean sheets. So I think another decision I made was just leave Liverpool alone totally. And that's worked out. They've not done a whole lot. No major injuries. Like I haven't had any fires to put out, so I've always been able to make the transfer I wanted to, kind of a thing. And I mean, sure, Andy, you know better man than you to know the benefit of the new, getting on the Newcastle defense at the moment is the place to be, like, isn't it?
Yeah. Every week, mate.
Yeah, it might get a little bit ropey going forwards, but yeah, like you just looking at those scores, 98 for this week obviously is massive, but like you say, it's the consistency for you going back, going back to game week 20, 70 odd points there, solid Haaland captain there, going back to game week 19, what was the double, wasn't it? Another City guys let you down, but one of those weeks where not a bad week to have a bad week, hitting like the 60 points. It's kind of, I think your captaincy you've kind of been nailing a lot over the last while as well. Like you say, it's that consistent 6 and 8, isn't it? From Newcastle at the back. That's kind of the thing. And getting on them, maybe not to the extent Andy has really worked out for you as well. Still all chips in hand as well, I believe, Jamesie. So yeah,
still got the chips. Yeah, well, there'll be one being used this week now, but yeah, all the chips so far. And like there's been some strokes of luck in there as well. Like there was it this note? I think it was this game week or the game week before. It was Newcastle were playing Fulham, and Mitrovic stepped up to take a penalty, scored the penalty, and it was like, oh fuck! I didn't have Mitrovic. I had left him on the bench. I had 2 Newcastle defenders. And then it was like, there's my double clean sheet gone. Yeah. Fucking Mitrovic sitting on and lots of other people had Mitrovic, so it would have been a bit of a rank killer as well. And lo and behold, it gets called back because he kicked the ball twice. He gets -2. I get my 2 clean sheets back. It was like, oh my God. It's just, when your luck is in, your luck is in. Like, you know what I mean? It was just, oh my God. You must have been even happier, Andy. You had 3 defenders that week, yeah.
Oh, we're running around the living room, James.
That one moment is a mass. Like that could have been worth 12, 15 points in total, because like bonus points would have been lost for like Trippier ended up on a 9-pointer, I think, that week. It's just all, and like, Jesus, we were saying it every week when we were doing it regularly. Kieran feckin' Trippier, what an asset! Like he's having the season we all wanted Trent Alexander-Arnold to have. Really, I saw somebody say he's on course to get more bonus points than any player in the history of the game this season. He just every single game week it's 3 bonus, 2 bonus, clean sheet, the odd assist thrown in there.
And his price has gone up, I think, 1.1 million. Yeah. Or 1 million since the start of it all.
Yeah, he's become one of them players, hasn't he? Where it's like it's almost like by default everyone's got him, or everyone who's taking this seriously has got him. But if you're one of those people like yourself who got him in on him early, you've had that money from him, and also you've had those points. At this point, it's just everyone's starting from Trippier's points, and then it's whatever you're at on top, isn't it? But to get in early is the key, isn't it? With like a player like that, it's kind of like Martinelli's another one. I know he's come off the boil a little bit recently, and I've even seen some people, even with the doubles coming, considering getting rid of him. But I don't think he's been consistent overall. He's another one where it's like it's the money factor, isn't it? I definitely considered it after the international breakers, whether I have my value out of him now, can I move it on? Seeing a lot of people talking about possibly switching up their 3 Arsenal players going forward, but he's another one. You got in early, you've made at least $1 million out of him, and he's been consistent. These last 3 weeks aside. It's a good story.
And it feels a bit sideways to go from one Arsenal to another, especially when there's doubles coming up. Like you want to be buying players who have doubles at the moment. Like I suppose the people who would have maybe done on the games in the game week 17 wildcard, the people who had Martinelli who switched to Odegaard are probably the wheel winners, because the points that Martinelli was getting, Odegaard is kind of getting them downstead, you know what I mean? So if you made that move back then during the wild card, even though you probably lost a lot of value, you probably, if I could wave a magic wand now, I would probably want Saka and Odegaard rather than Saka and Martinelli. But I also can't really justify using a transfer to go from one Arsenal to another at the moment. It doesn't. There's other things I need to be doing, that kind of a way.
That's it. And all in all, it's worked out really well for you. And as you said there, Andy, you've had an incredible run over the last period as well. Above me in the GRAPPL FPL league. Don't think I haven't noticed that. I'm hoping the chips in my back pocket might bring me back. But there you go, green arrow after green arrow after green arrow.
Look at those game week ranks.
Mr. Chips. That's insane, isn't it?
98,000, 93,000.
Yeah,
can you bring up the second chance league, Benno, and look where Andy is in that. You're the overall league.
433rd
overall in the whole world.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something, Andy. Got to be proud. Got to be a proud manager.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say game week 16, which was my team, obviously before the World Cup. I'm just looking at it now. What I had in Connor Cody. What was I thinking? He was in Granit Xhaka. That was around the time Xhaka was doing all right. Good God, I had some bad players in this team. Joe Gomez. Why? Just why?
Just brought that up, by the way. There you are in the second chance league, 433rd in the mix.
Yeah,
amazing. League's gone. Yeah, could happen, mate. Could happen.
Yeah. Well, what's it the week back after the World Cup, as you can probably see from how many transfers I were making. I think I made 90 transfers.
We've got to look at that. You've got
a problem, Andy. You've got a problem.
Yeah, here's the transfer history.
And after all that, you ended up with a serious team, in fairness.
Yeah, so this is when I had like wildcard. So if you look at the ones in December, I think they come up.
Oh my God.
So every day we're during the World Cup.
But it worked.
It worked.
Maybe we should all be doing it.
You're a tinkerer's manager, Andy. That's what you are. Bloody hell.
You're like the Notts Forest of FPL managers, Andy.
I respect, Andy, that you took Christmas Day off. There's nothing on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day there. So.
Christmas Eve.
I know.
Boxing Day is another matter.
Oh, Boxing Day is all the horse racing and football. So yeah.
Look what happens when you calm down, Andy. Look, you're just nice and steady afterwards. And look at you now, 400 in the world.
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of them. Just try to see if I can get. Similar to what people have at the top, and I went for, the Newcastle defence.
When did you get them in? What week was that?
So I got them in game week. I had game week 16. I had triple Newcastle, but I had Trippier, Burn, and Shah. Then I went to Trippier, and Botman for 2. Because I had Almer on in. But I think I've moved back to triple Newcastle over the last 2 to 3 weeks since Almiron's he's not been firing, has he?
No, he's kind of got off the boil. He's something for me to consider.
I think quite a few of them jumped away from him now. I did have Reece James in, but he's been injured since. The Man United. One thing I did have my eye on was Man United. I think I went triple United because they'd had good fixtures after Christmas.
Sure.
Shaw was great.
Luke Shaw, he did excellent for me in the World Cup fantasy. And I thought, I'll stick him into this one. It's him, De Gea, obviously. Mr. School Meals has, been doing the business. Rashford. So they're the ones who've really got me up there. So that week after Christmas, 106 points. Oof. And then, trying to think now, game week 19, 82. 82. Not too bad there. I had who's it on the bench there? Cucurella. God, he's been a flop, hasn't he?
I know. I was considering him around that period as well. It's your game week 20. I want to go to, Andy. You played your wild card then. What was the thought there? Was it to shore up that squad?
What it were with that? So since Christmas, I thought I'll give it a couple of weeks, just see how it does, and then it's more looking into the actual fixtures of what the teams had, and your Newcastle were looking good. Brentford. Great run of games, and they've done well for clean sheets. But problem is, I've got Ben Mee on the bench, who's got I think 2 or 3 clean sheets. But I don't want to get rid of anyone in midfield, and I don't want to get rid of the brick wall at the back, do I? So it's a bit tough there. Another good one who I've put in is Arman Matoma from Brighton.
You were onto him.
Yeah, I did have Andreas as the person in off the bench who I'd bring in and see how I go from there. But no, he's been excellent, Matoma, and he's good. I think
18 to 21, 7, 8, 6, 10. That's crazy.
Yeah,
scored a cup of the weekend as well.
But I've had him in instead of Andreas, and I think going forward, he's more than likely going to be a starter in my team. The way he's going at the moment, and it's people like Gabriel Martinelli who'll be the one on the bench, like Jamesie said, because he's getting in good forward positions still, but it's just it's like Jesus, isn't it? With 2 points. So they're doing a lot of work, but nothing coming off for him.
When we get into the transfers, Trossard's a threat as well, isn't he? If he's going to take minutes off him.
Yeah, that's we know from our draft exchange, Benno. So
we've done some good deals on that side, mate. I've been very happy with that. I've basically got the Arsenal starting 11 now, Jamesy. It's crazy. It might actually do all right in the second half.
Should be fine. So,
But the thing was, I started off with in the draft with quite a lot of Arsenal, and I've sort of passed them over when they haven't been doing so good. Mo Salah's been. He had that 1-2 weeks after Christmas where he's doing all right. 12 I think he got a 12-pointer, didn't he?
Yeah,
12 points. Yeah. Same in like 18.
17.
It was.
Everyone thought he was back, didn't he?
Yeah.
17. Everyone thought he was back. That was the Villa away game when they won 3-1, and it was like, and the people at 15 obviously had that right before the break as well. That kind of, the people who'd stuck with him, it made them want to stay. But yeah, as I said, me dad and me stepdad and my brother talking about it, like, yeah, Liverpool since then, 18, 19, 20, 21, just not much exciting going on the Liverpool end, is there? More options are coming in though. They got lots to come back, haven't they, from injury?
Yeah. Me thinking was always with Salah, swapping Salah and De Bruyne, like going with Salah for about a week or two, and then when Man City had the easy fixtures, put them in and do it that way. But I know they're the two premium ones in midfield at the moment, them two and Son at Tottenham, and I wouldn't trust any of them at the moment. Especially with Liverpool, I know they've had so many injuries. They've still got like Jota to come back. I don't think Cody Gakpo's done much yet. Darwin cut it at Kel's house with a banjo, and Salah's just not doing the business. Kane's been all right, I will say, and Haaland he had a couple of two pointers and 4 pointers, didn't he? But he obviously can't get shut of him. It's just. We'll get into it about maybe swapping captaincies this week, but no, I'm really like a pig in shit. Literally, with how my team going.
It felt a bit exciting, didn't it, James? When Haaland had kind of, got the people who triple capped him and in game week 20 were a little bit burned, a 2 and a 6, and a 2 and a 6 in the 2 weeks before that 1 pointer in game week 16 as well. It was like, you know what? If Haaland went off the boil, it wouldn't be the way, because everyone said that he was going to be. Everyone else is at the World Cup. He's sat at home, he's going to be resting up, ready to come back. And it didn't really come true now. Obviously, last game week, 17 points. Haaland is officially back if he ever went away. But I'm almost sad that happened. It was like almost made the game a bit more interesting if, he may be quieting, just by his standards, quieting down a bit, a few 6s, a few 5s, those kind of weeks.
He was playing like a normal human being there for about 4 weeks there. Between 18 and 20, it was just like a normal striker. It was like, okay. Most times, if you had a striker who scored twice in 4 weeks, you'd be like, great, I'd keep him. A goal every 2 games, brilliant. That's pretty much a good return for a striker over a season. But yeah, I mean, the 17-pointer the last day is a bit of a reminder. But like City in general, they're not right. Sure, they're not. And Pep is having one of his weird seasons where I don't know, like Phil Foden has just. It's just not even in squads anymore. Like there was a run. Phil Foden was on a run there earlier in the season where he was double digits like 3 or 4 weeks in a row, and it was like, okay, maybe we should actually all have Phil Foden. And then something happened.
I think it was around the time of that first Man United game, weren't it?
Yeah.
Where he got tons of points, and then maybe a couple of weeks after that.
Yeah, he scored a hat-trick in that game. Him and Haaland got 3 each against United.
Yeah.
And then a couple of weeks on, he did fine, and then something happened, and Pep just stopped picking him. And we all, because remember, we all brought him in for a double game week, and he started neither game in the game week. It was like, and we had all taken -4s to get him as well. It was a bit of a disaster. And maybe we all thought that, sure, maybe after the World Cup, he'll kind of get back in the good books or whatever it is. He's giving him a rest for the World Cup or something like that. Just gone, and he's like, he's playing, he's loaned out Cancelo. And he's favouring that young lad Lewis instead of him, and he's playing Nathan Ake as a left back, and it's all just a bit funny. But they're not like this time of year. Most seasons is when everybody has. Usually it was always double City defense and Kevin De Bruyne because this was the time where they'd string 10 wins in a row. There'd be 8 clean sheets in there. De Bruyne will be getting the goals and assists every week, and it's just not happening this season. They're kind of stuttering, So I don't know. It's strange. It's a funny one. City are like, I'm going into the double game week next week with City, and I'm happy enough just to have 2 City players because I wouldn't know what defender to pick from them now that Cancelo's gone. I couldn't rely on Mahrez to play twice. He'd be the obvious third player to go for. He's even more eccentric. This, like, Pep has always been a pain in the hole, but he's even more eccentric this season. Like, it's impossible to predict what he's going to do.
I think the only ones from the defence I was looking at, because I've had a Kanji in my draft team, and he's been a regular for about 5 million. Rico Lewis at 3.9 million. If you just want to free up some funds, he's been playing more than he's been on the bench, and he's shown his worth in that team. He's been getting ahead of Kyle Walker.
Walker's
an international.
Well, I think
if that carries on,
maybe.
Yeah, Ake's who I've got at the minute. Like, but if that carries on, 3.9 million for a City defender. The only thing is, it's taken up a City slot. If he, you can say, he's only 3.9 million. He can sit on the bench. Either, so. But it's definitely something in my consideration, as far as just switching around the City players I've got. Mahrez is all of a sudden a Premier League player again. It's like with him. And that's the thing, cup stuff coming up. He might well disappear again, as he does most years. You get that little run, don't you, with Mahrez? And you think, I can rely on him now. Same thing with Foden, as you just said. And then it doesn't work out. De Bruyne has been punishing me and you for a little while, hasn't he, Jamesie? It's he's been fine, but is he? As far as his price point goes, it's been a little bit. It's stung a little bit, hasn't it? Especially that double.
Yeah.
And the like.
If we had Bruno since the World Cup instead of him, we'd probably be up 20, 25
You could be in the top 10. Yeah, you could be in the top 10K, like, genuinely.
You'd be number one. Yeah, things like that. But you could assemble an amazing midfield now with just players who were 5 or 6 million. And have vastly outscored people who might have had De Bruyne or Salah all the way along. You know what I mean? Like, when you look at the Arsenal guys, Rashford, Mitoma, Pereira was quite good there for a while. Even down to Bailey from Villa. Only he's down to 4.5 now. Like, the options for cheap midfielders, like being short of money isn't a thing, I think, at the moment, because there's no premium defenders. You could easily put out a defensive Trippier and 2 4.5 players. You could easily put out 5 cheap midfielders and get really good scores. So, like, it's not one of those seasons where you're scraping for every 0.1 million. Like, there's loads of places in your team you can make money. Like, anyone who had Cancelo can now free up loads of money by selling him and bringing in a 4.5 million midfielder,
But still, James, there's no chance Will Zaha's getting anywhere near any of our teams.
He's injured anyway.
Well, I'll quickly go through.
Never doing that. Ever again.
Don't make that mistake.
I don't care how good the double is. I don't care what's going on. Never.
FPL. It's a long time to say never, Jamesie. Who knows?
That's true.
Well, for my lot, I'll keep this brief. I'm sitting pretty at 8th at the minute when it comes to the league, and a lot of red arrows are responsible for that. Behind even Carl Gack, which is just, that just sums up the state of how I'm getting on at the minute. Like, look at those arrows, lads. Green and 16. I know some of those game week ranks are horrendous. Like, bottom 6 or 7 million in game week 19. Game week 21 was a bad week for me as well. It's just one of those things. And there's been a couple of those weeks in there where I've looked at my team. Like, I can kind of go, 78 points in game week 17, and go, that's actually not too bad. And then you realize how far below the average that is. Like, even when I feel like I've had these good weeks, they've just not really been coming for me. And it feels like maybe the tide is turning a little bit. I've got my ducks in a row. I feel relatively positive about the doubles coming up and the blanks, which we'll be talking about again in a little while. But yeah, it's just the story of my team's just been some poor transfers. I got James in for his period where he did literally nothing, and then he's a disappearing man. Obviously, Cancelo red flagged because he doesn't appear in the game anymore. Is an issue I've got going forward. I put the eggs in the Darwin basket at one point earlier this year, thinking that might work out.
Martial,
another one. A lot of people there's a lot of people who fell into that trap like me, who actually haven't been able to get rid of him, and they're probably in a good spot now because he'll probably get enough minutes, won't he? Coming up for the double, so I'm almost ruined getting rid of him, but wasn't really feeling him. It's just it doesn't make pretty viewing there my lot at the minute. Maybe I should have gone triple Newcastle like Andy or yeah, maybe moved off that Darwin train a little bit sooner. There's just well, there can only be better days coming forward. Green arrows in the future. That's what I've got to hope for. Like Kane was another one. Like when we get into the game weeks going forwards, like that is a consideration. He's a bit of a cash cow as far as like, if I get rid of him, I've got the money to pretty much do whatever I want. It means I can upgrade Almiron, who, like you said, Andy, like I feel Almiron's another one. It's getting on players at the wrong times. Like I got on Almiron kind of after that fun period before Christmas, and it's just not really happened for me since. A couple of mirages apart. It's just timing is everything in FPL a bit, and I think I've maybe screwed that up this January.
It's a good team on paper, Benno. Like I'm looking at the teams you flick through every week, and I'm like, none of these are bad players. Like I always say about FPL, if you can look back at the decision you made and why you made the decision, and if the logic, like have an Almiron in your team. Like I've had Almiron since the World Cup. I just thought I couldn't be without him because so many people owned him at this stage. Like you've got Ake there. He's the most regular City defender. Trippier, Ben White. Great asset, Saka, Martinelli. You look at it and you think, what would you actually change either? Like, you know what I mean? So it's just, as you said, the Almiron thing is a bit like, remember Jesse Lingard a few seasons ago? I wonder, is that it? He's had the purple patch now of those few months before the World Cup. And is he just back to being the Almiron we knew he was all along kind of a thing, And that's what the game is, isn't it? Getting on people on a hot streak and getting off when the hot streak goes,
Look at that, like 12 to 14, 10, 10, 12, 8. And then, 16, 17. And then since 3-2, 3-3. And that's it. It's time. It is probably time for him to go. That's good. But my question going forward is going to be, how I get the Man United assets in and whether it's Kane or De Bruyne that go to make that happen. But that's the surgery I think I need to make. I think the biggest thing for me is getting that balance right, because right now, De Bruyne is the other thing. A lot of my money was tied up in De Bruyne, and a lot of my hopes and dreams were tied up in him. And it's like, they've got a double coming up, but would I be better adjusting things and going, okay, well, the 3 City I'd rather have is maybe not even Ake, maybe get Mahrez in there, or maybe get rid of De Bruyne for Mahrez. Arsenal, as we talked about, is going to be the same conversation. As good as Martinelli's been, is an Odegaard a better thought, as far as like shuffling those Arsenal players on? Do you want triple Arsenal attack? Xhaka, like as far as like a much cheaper option, for people like that
have you had Rashford at all, Benno?
Not at all. That's been another big one.
That's a rank killer, like, because he's everyone has gone on him at this stage kind of thing,
That could be the big one this week, when people go like triple captains or captain Rashford. And if he hauls this week, he's got 2 really good fixtures, could leave people in the dust in that league if you got him.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely coming in this week, spoilers for when we get to that bit. Bruno is a potential consideration as well if I'm doubling up in that way, but might be a little bit too little, too late for me. But we'll see. There's still a fair amount of season to go. That's what I keep telling myself. I think my goal at the start of the season was to be in those top couple 100,000s. I'd take top million at this point, and even that feels like it might be a dream too far. But we'll see. GRAPPL FPL League is the main thing, and hopefully I can regain some glory there. Use those chips I've got in the bank to maybe catch up with Mr. Chips himself over there. But a few of the lads having good runs so far. Gareth has one. I'm hope maybe he'll call in at some point and brag. But he's had a great run so far. He's climbed, right up the league as well. Jordan's right on your heels as well, Jamesie. JP, you're having a great run in the draft.
Solidly playing all season. He's been up there,
That's it. It's looking pretty good there, and Batty's unfortunately dead last as far as the main league goes. But draft is the important thing. He'll tell you it as well. Poor Martin as well. We gave Martin some tips, didn't we, at the end of the last run? Doesn't seem to have worked out. We'll have to get Martin back on and give him some more tips. But it's gonna. Speaking of our league, we have one of our special guests dropping in on the call. He's currently my competitor for mid-table here. Eddie Sideburns. Eddie, how are you, mate? Great to hear from you.
Hi there, I'm doing not bad. Yourself?
Hey, Eddie.
Very good, mate. Very good. Hopefully your real football expertise will help us out here. You are the host of a football themed podcast.
Proper football podcast.
Does it still exist? Yeah, I guess so.
Like this, mate?
we're like, we forget about it, and then Arn buggers off to Italy, and I'm just sat here in Scotland feeling miserable. So, yeah. Swings and roundabouts with your podcast hosts. But, yeah, I'm enjoying these when they come on. Point behind you, Benno. Kind of just been slipping with my team when I look at it. There's just certain things that I know I can do a little bit of an improvement on. But I'm still getting, some fairly decent points. I think getting Mings in was quite a good one. I think Villa, since Emery's come in, have been quite solid a bit at the back. Trippier and Pope up there as well, because I'm getting that from there. I think I'm just stuck on the likes of, Almiron probably needs to go. Iwobi's still somehow there, but that's just because I had faith in him since my FPL draft league. So
Dash might get him going.
I'm going to say with Alex Iwobi, do you remember before Christmas on here, we're doing the heat map thing and we were surprised. Bloody hell, he's doing well with us. Red all over the
pointer here in the middle there. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Nothing since. Literally nothing since.
3, 2, 2, 2, 4, 2, 2. Yeah, this is making a bit of sense, Eddie.
It worked well because, when I was looking in I think it was maybe 4th or 5th in the fantasy draft, and I was just needing consistency, and I was looking for points, and Iwobi was consistently getting 90 minutes and at least 2 points or at least more. And I kind of realized from the draft, and when we did the first thing, it was like, okay, if I can get these players and they're getting at least 2 points, at least consistently, even if they're not doing much, then somehow, because I've got Kane as my striker, I'll get something out of it. And then getting Schär after week 1 kind of helped solidify the Botman, Schär, and Pope defense I've got. So, I think there's definitely things I need to improve on that. I'm just trying to find the time because I focus on the FPL draft team a bit more than I do this one. And I'm
it tends to be whatever you're doing best in, isn't it? I'll pay attention to that one. That's how I feel. My draft team's starting to recover a little bit. So it's it's all about the draft, lads. It's not about the real league.
Well, I'm the opposite.
I had a Scottish football draft team, and I just gave up on that because I'm just I'm not going to have time for this. I go and watch those games at points, and I'm like, I just can't be arsed. So I'm just
Scottish wrestler, mate. Same thing.
Yeah.
Get the F out, Benno. Get the F out.
We always ace at that Triple H. Always.
It was, they're just a bunch of shout of shites anyway. Yeah.
You start running Wolverhampton. That's where the main stuff's happening. That's where
anyway. Well, there's not been an announcement yet, but someone's apparently in Ohio on the 18th instead of Dublin.
Yeah, it's an issue.
I think, as I said, I've just was looking at it. I said I looked at the fantasy football in Scotland, and it's you have there's the same limits and stuff like that, and I was just I really just don't have the time, so I'll just put focus into at least my NFL
some
fantasy
money
and this one.
Money extension. I play on the draft, so there's that as well. What's the Scottish one called? What's the game? Is it got it's Gaffer's the championship one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's I can't remember what it's called exactly. I think it's just Scottish Fantasy Football FFS, which makes me laugh because it's for fuck's sake. But yeah, and it does kind of. I don't think it's owned. I don't think it's official, but it is something that they've done for quite a while. As I said, I joined a couple of leagues and just kind of was I'm really not interested in kind of changing this because I'm not completely. It's not focused enough. Whereas obviously this has a bit more of a bigger kind of following. So yeah, I'm just kind of now I've got my Twitter comes up with consistent updates about FPL, that one that tells you who the bonus points are going to be and stuff like that. So
FPL alerts, we love them.
I've somehow found myself obsessed.
FPL alerts is good, but also Andy in the group chat because Andy will just throw in. Andy's ahead of Everett and he's ahead of all my streams.
FPL status, that's another good one to follow on Twitter. That gives all the price rises and who's injured and great. I think that's been great especially over the last week when with the transfer window activity, like knowing when they're actually going to be in the draft league, so you can just get in your proposal straight away.
Yeah.
There was a week the other week where I think you were out on the piss, Andy. You and your Jeff were out, and you weren't providing like the minute-to-minute update you usually would. And it meant, because I love the chat, but I have to mute it and then go into it after goals happen if I'm watching a game. Like I'm like, okay, I'll go in, I'll see what Andy said about this 2 minutes ago. It was like a Sunday afternoon. I think it was a lovely day. It was like, oh, I'm all right here. I'm not getting spoiled. I can keep the alerts on. Maybe I can break some news here. Honestly, that satellite at the Ogden house is got a lot to answer for, but made up to have you there anyway. I didn't get you to get some of that FPL love going in your blood. You're more of a footy man than me, definitely. But yeah, getting you on the FPL side, we've brought you over to the dark side here. But on that real footy point, the next thing we were going to look at, maybe to help you out, help everyone out with the plans going forward, to have a quick look at the transfers that did happen as we start to look forward to our plans for the game weeks going forward. James, you managed to source this graphic for us from, who's that from? Fantasy. I don't even know what that logo is. Fantasy Dolphin.
To get the name of it. I probably should give this person credit, but I forget who they are, to be honest.
I'll zoom in a minute. We'll figure it out. Shout out to Fantasy Dolphins for now. But yeah, provided a very useful graphic of the different transfers that have been done. So Everton did actually sign a player. There you go, Ellis Sims.
Oh, there you go.
He was
someone who's
their own player.
Yeah, that's someone coming back from loan. They recalled him back because it was funny because they were trying to sell. Yeah, they were trying to sell, and they sold Anthony Gordon, and then they tried to bring in a like-for-like almost replica person in Conor Gallagher, as in the way they look, and then that just fell down, and they just realized they're not getting anyone at this point.
God, it's been a horrible few days around here. Like I say, half my relatives are barely hanging on at this point. Half of them are outside Goodison.
I think also Andre Ayew has just signed for. I want
not
to say on
Forest again
on a short-term deal.
Yeah, Everton wanted him, and he went to Forest instead. Yeah.
Oh, can't get enough players over there. So yeah, it's not been fun, but yeah, I mean, Jamesy, yeah, you sourced this for us, as far as the transfers go. Like I said, busy window. All in all, anybody jump out for you from either side on either side? Who the big movers and shakers? Who should we be keeping mostly an eye on here?
Yeah, like it's like I'm not going to pretend to have heard of all of these players, but I suppose from an FPL point of view, you're looking for who's actually going to come straight into someone's first team and get 90 minutes. And like that rules out quite a lot of these people. I would say, like from the Chelsea list, I think Badie Ashiel might be a decent option at 5 million. I think he has started the last 2 games for them anyway since he arrived. So you would hope that he would stay in the team. I presume the guy Mudryk will eventually be, like, he came off the bench against Liverpool. The lads were saying in the chat that he had looked really lively, and I saw some clips of him going on some good runs and having a shot and that kind of thing. I assume, having spent 100 million on him, that Enzo Fernandez will pretty quickly become established in the midfield. Felix, you'd expect to start for Chelsea as well. Let me see who else had I looked at that might be. Some of those Bournemouth guys are people to keep an eye on. Now, again, I have never seen or heard of these guys.
I'm going to say James. I was going to say Antoine Semenyo. He was very good at like Bristol City. He don't score much. He's like a winger, but he'll be all right for Bournemouth. Like up in the attacking third.
I watched a scouting video on some of these, and a lot of them guys, like the guy Traore and Ouattara, they're both down as midfielders, and they're midfielders, but they're attacking midfielders. So, like, if keep an eye on them, I suppose, and if they're guys that start getting among the points, there's another 4.5 midfield option there. I think Alex Moreno is probably going to start left back for Aston Villa from now on because Luca Dean has an injury.
They don't have blanks, do they, Villa, going forward? I was listening to Planet FPL.
Villa, and it's important to get on Villa if you can. Like, if you can have Villa players as your subs moving forward, you're in a very good place because they are the only team that play in the 3 blank game weeks. So 25, 28, 32. I think Villa and Everton are the only team that will play a match guaranteed to play in all those three. So if your three subs or two of your three subs could be cheap Villa, like Tyrone Mings, 4.3 defender. Bailey, if Bailey was your fifth midfielder, 4.5 million, really good. Even someone like a Watkins, if you could get on him for those weeks as well, you know. Leeds made some interesting signings. I saw somebody say Wober. No, I can't pronounce these guys. Maximilian Wober. He's a centre back or left back, but apparently he's also really good at free kicks. So he's a guy just to keep an eye on that. You know, Leeds mightn't be keeping clean sheets, but like if he can get the odd goal here and there for you, that kind of thing.
That other lad, McKennie, he was like up front quite a few times for Juventus. You know, when Ronaldo were there and them. I've been watching the documentary on Amazon Prime. It's about a year or so old, and he's featured a lot in that program. I've stuck him in my draft team because, you know, if he's an attacking player and Leeds like to play like that, don't they? So he might be one to follow.
What do you think, Eddie? You're more of a worldly football man than me. And anybody on that list? Any hidden gems there that we might?
Tete from Leicester is definitely someone who stands out. He's cut a loan spell at Lyon short to come to the Premier League. McKennie, there's promise there, and I think with Wober as well, because Wober was at Leipzig and Salzburg, so he has worked with Marsh before. So I think Marsh knows his strengths and what he can do. So I think he can get the best out of him. One that I've not heard a lot of talk about, which I think is a bit of a shrewd signing from Chelsea, would be Madueke. Noni Madueke. He's the one in midfield, obviously, between Mudryk and obviously Fernandes, but he's one of those ones who, Potter's kind of waxed lyrical about how good he is. And obviously I think they were hoping to use him more, given the fact that Ziyech was supposed to go. Obviously,
is he a right?
Chelsea don't remember how to use a fax machine, so or at least if they do, it's some really bad PDSs.
He play on the right, Eddie?
Yes, I would say so, because he was born. He's one of those ones he's made kind of his kind of youth career. He started at Palace, then he went to Tottenham, and then he went to PSV. And so he's kind of one of those players who has taken a kind of gamble on himself to go abroad. And obviously it's paid off because, they've now signed him for about, I think, 28.5 million. And that PSV side is, quite a good side. It's not a great side at the time, so obviously there was a lot of back and forth between them and Ajax. And but he's a winger attacking midfielder. And I think, he'll work well if Potter's quite happy with him. From a personal perspective, and I know he's probably not going to do much fantasy-wise, could be good for corners, and he had a decent World Cup for Australia. Harry Suter, who used to play for Dundee United, is now at Leicester. He's, that Australian team were quite good. Not massive world beaters, but they were quite a decent, strong team at the World Cup, and they do need someone in there who can kind of be quite a strength in the back, because obviously, they're flowing in goals consistently at the moment and have been for quite a wee while. And with Maddison coming back and obviously stuff like, Tete and Christensen and Suter, I think they have a good chance. The only other player there, and I'm going to butcher his name, but it's a Football Manager one, would be Zabarnyi from Bournemouth, but that's just because I'm a Football Manager mark.
How about the other side, Ed?
Someone picked him up. There was two claims I went for, and I knew I wasn't going to get because I'm too high up in the waiver. Onuachu from Southampton.
I got him.
You got everyone. You pulled them all in, Andy.
For everyone.
I missed the deadline.
It was after seeing that worst hat trick ever on Twitter from an actually like evening.
He fell over himself on the line, basically.
Yeah. I think he's going to be something because they've not had attack force. Adam Armstrong really hasn't done a lot. Saku Mara, the one I picked up in draft, hasn't really done a lot. So I think
Sulemana is highly rated.
I've heard things about Sulemana. He's one of those ones. I think that's where he plays. It's one of those ones where I don't know whether they're using him. I don't know whether he's going to be in straight away. But again, as you were kind of, as I think I heard you saying, Jamesie, a lot of these players are going to, and I think it was with Chelsea, a lot of these players are going to need a lot of time before they're, to be blooded in before they actually start. I think if you're looking at players who have signed, they're probably going to get starts right away. It would be, I think, obviously Sabitzer comes in right away, given the injury to Eriksson. Weghorst, Cunha, Navas, because of obviously what happened to Henderson. There are some good players here. Southampton have very much. I appreciate them because the Sulemana and Onuachu, because clearly someone in their scouting has been playing a lot of Football Manager 2023. But again, I always respect
that Onuachu's got a ridiculous scoring record. I know it's bloody Belgian leagues, but it's you've got to take note of that, haven't you, Eddie?
Well, I mean, as I said, regardless of the league, don't get me wrong. The Genk side in that Belgian league are quite a decent side. And he's now in the Nigerian squad a lot more. I mean, he was called the toast of Nigerian football at a time. So they take that seriously, and he's Genk are top of the league. They're top by about 6 points. Compared to the likes of, an Anderlecht are nowhere to be found, and Club Bruges are higher up. The Belgian league's quite an interesting one because from what I've seen and from what I remember, there's a lot of teams in it that could win it more than just like a top 4. Yeah. So I think him finally deciding that, okay, he's done what he's done, he's left the team while they're top of the league to go and, can't turn down an offer in the Premier League. I think it's interesting to see how he'll do. I would really be interested if they start him. The other one would just be Porro from Hotspur, because again, you get another clean sheet. He's more, if Spurs can finally keep clean sheets and stuff like that, I can see him being slotted into many fantasy teams and people not looking back.
Is he attacking? Porro?
His attacking stats are insane. I saw somebody, he's like in the highest percentile for nearly every attacking stat in the Portuguese league. It was nuts, like for crosses, passes into the box and everything. So, but the problem is, like, will he play 50% of the games? Will he play 90% of the games?
Yeah, they don't know the best wing backs, do they?
No,
we know that with Doherty and Perisic.
Yeah, well, Doherty's gone, but he loves Emerson Royale. He's kind of like his comfort blanket almost when he wants to play solid and keep it solid. He goes back to him all the time. Like, so if you knew that someone like him would start every week, great. But like,
yeah,
we sat here saying the same thing about Ivan Perisic in the summer, and again, you're just Tottenham wing backs. You end up sweating on them every single game week. You're always waiting for the lineups, the predicted lineup, and it's just, like he is better than Emerson Royale, but that doesn't mean, like, sure, on the other side, Perisic is way better than Sessegnon, but Sessegnon plays like 1 in 3 games at the very least, so
I'd be interesting to see as well, with the other Tottenham signing there, Arnaud Danjuma. Remember him from, I think, Brentford in the Championship. He was, excellent.
Bournemouth. I think he was at Bournemouth.
It was Bournemouth because he had a discussion about about coming back to them.
Yeah.
And then obviously there was he was going to sign for who else but Everton. And then obviously at the last minute,
they literally had taken a picture of him with the jersey. He still ended up at Spurs.
With Porro as well, just quickly, he's right wing and a right back, so he kind of is something, if he can do both of those positions, I think that's what Conte's been looking for, is from both wings to be, not only they can defend, but they can attack quite aggressively. And obviously, as I think James was saying, the stats that he has, and as far as going down the field, going down the pitch, are incredibly good for someone in that position. It is just a case of Conte kind of does like changing things quite consistently and kind of going to safety blankets who are not really that good, like Emerson Royale. So yeah, Danjuma, I think that's another one, because obviously their midfield is kind of packed in certain areas. Bentancur, the heat map, and obviously other players like that. So.
Have you guys seen that? Have you seen that guy Scarpa yet?
I've seen him solve a Rubik's Cube.
He looks like a Spanish exchange student. He
Oh,
looks
really?
like a guy. Yeah, like we used to get these Spanish exchange students over to Ireland in the summer, and they'd come and stay in someone's home for about a month, and they were always like way cooler than us. Like their hair was always much cooler. They'd know how to roll a rolly cigarette and all this kind of stuff. If you look at this guy, he looks like one of these guys. Like apparently he's a world-class skateboarder or something. I saw as well. It's like he's mad.
Yeah.
Darby Allen in a not sorry shirt.
Exactly. Way too cool to be playing football. Like
he comes from good pedigree as well, because he's from Palmeiras, and he's obviously he's been there for about a good couple of years. So he really, I'm really excited to see how he does. Apparently his favorite books include Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis and Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment.
Wow.
So there you go.
He looks like like a surfboarder with his hair.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Good looking
doesn't look
man.
like a footballer at all.
No.
Yeah. One other team that I think they do this all the time, but they do sign some people that I look at and I go, okay, I'm interested, but are they actually going to play well? Is Wolves. And if you take away Bentley and Dawson and you look at Lamina being signed and Matheus Cunha, who I think was linked with Man United at one point during the kind of rush for getting a striker and things like that, they just don't score goals at the moment, but they have a decent number of players, and obviously with Lopetegui in as their manager, I'm really wondering if they're going to make a bit of a improvement and move on.
I think Wolves are fine now. I don't know. Like we did a lot of talking at the start of the season. Maybe Wolves could go down. I'd have no concerns about them whatsoever now. I think they're back to being nice and solid at the back again. If anybody needs a nice cheap enabler on their bench, Bueno. I've had him since the last wild card, since the World Cup. 3.9 million. He came off my bench twice for 6 pointers for me when I really needed him. It looks really good. If you watch him play, it looks really good. Like he looks like a kind of player that I could see someone like Pep Guardiola having a look at in a couple of years' time. Just a really good attacking fullback. Wolves. Remember the solid Wolves defensive a couple of seasons ago where everybody had Connor Cody in their team because 4.5 million, quite a lot of clean sheets. I can see them getting back to that, but I also think with those signings, I think they actually might score some goals now as well. So, I have no concerns about Wolves. I think very quickly they'll be steadily mid-table and they won't even worry about relegation.
Yeah, worth keeping an eye on a double coming up as well. I believe for Wolves. So yeah, so I've something to keep an eye on. I was looking at their defenders in the draft, seeing what I could do just to get that little bit of advantage. But speaking of doubles and blanks, with our thanks to it was Footballpedia, the previous graphic game for apparently never Fancypedia. Sorry, you butchered the name even. Fancypedia, the Dolphin lads, follow them. They're great. We have another helpful graphic here that you saw for us, Jamesie, talking all of the big stuff coming forward, which is a very, very busy period. We're going to get into the weeds thanks to Ben Crellin on Twitter in a second, at least, of the run up until I think the international break, that big blank and get blank game week 28 is kind of where most people's brains are right now. Obviously, there's lots coming after it, a few big double game weeks looking at this graphic here, 29, 34, and 37 even. The week before the season ends, we're expecting a relatively decent-sized double game week. But yeah, I think a lot of people's eyes are going to be right now, Jamesie, on double game weeks 22 and 23 coming up. Everyone getting the United players in for this week and maybe the odd Leeds bod, and everyone keeping track of their Arsenal and City players for next week. But it's about to get wild over these next few game weeks, isn't it? And it's chip season, I would say, for the rest of us, everyone except Andy. Andy's ahead of
I'm all out of chips to me.
We'll mix some more for you, mate. Maybe all on the taxi back.
You don't need them anyway. You're fine. This is the part of the season I love because it's like I'm now spending. I don't know if you guys know the website FPL Team. Where you can plan your transfers and you can actually it's very useful to actually see the team you will have in a couple of weeks time up on the screen, because I think when you just look at it on the FPL website you don't actually realize, okay, God, I might actually have to bench him in 2 weeks. Like, you know, my double Newcastle defense is away to City. I'm going to have to think about who will my sub be that week. It's really, really good. Like, but I'm spending an inordinate amount of times on that at the moment because there's a lot to think. Like, even I'm always a fan of kind of breaking the season down into little blocks. And at the moment in my head, I'm kind of treating the next 4 weeks as their own little block because you've got, like you said, Benno, you've United and Leeds doubling this week, City and Arsenal next week. 24 is relatively quiet. It's just a normal week, but there's European games either side of it as well you have to keep an eye on. And then 25 is going to be a problem for quite a lot of teams because it's the weekend of the Carabao Cup final, which means United's game won't happen and Newcastle's game won't happen. And most managers at this point will have 5 or 6 players from both of those teams.
And Brighton and Brentford in it.
Yeah, and their opponents are Brighton and Brentford. Like, so people will have Tony, people might have a Brentford defender, people might have Raya in goal. People have been jumping on, like what people didn't realize in jumping on Matoma and Solly March and even Ferguson is that, again, Brighton won't play in that game week. So there's a bit of juggling to be done. Like, you obviously have to target the doubles in the next couple of weeks, but you also have to think ahead to 25 and like, you know, you have to now have a good bench as well. There's no point in having 3 non-playing players on your bench anymore because you're going to need those players for the likes of 25, 28 when there's another, like game week 28 is the FA Cup quarterfinals, which could mean there's probably only going to be 5 games played that week. 32 is like, people don't realize, like people are talking about using their free hit for some of the double game weeks. You have to keep an eye on who's going to end up. 32 is when the FA Cup semi-finals are. And there's a disastrous scenario where if United, City, Spurs, and I think it's Southampton, if those are the 4 teams that made the cup, which isn't like, you know, United, City, and Spurs are the 3 best teams in the tournament. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility they'd make the semis. But then if Southampton joined them, you would have none of the top 6 playing that week, that game week. You'd have no City players, no United players, no Liverpool, no Arsenal. You'd have lots of games played. I think you'd still end up with 7 or 8 games happening, but it would all be lower league teams. So like you'd almost certainly want to keep your free hit for that week if that happens. Now we'll know about that by game week 28 when the quarterfinals are played, who's in the semi-finals, but just don't rush into using your free hit yet. Like, wait until you know who's in the FA Cup semi-finals before you blow your free hit chip earlier than that, because that's I think you can manage 25 and 28 just with transfers. It might mean having 8 or 9 on the pitch for some people. That's okay. Like, but 32 could be a week where you have 2 players playing or 3 players playing, and that's a disaster, you know.
For me right now, it's a matter of probably, at least in my brain, like you say, splitting it up. I'm thinking dead end to 28. You know, I'm kind of, that's as far as I'm thinking. You know, there might be some transfers I make just to get me through 28. And it's then those doubles coming afterwards where that's when, I'll be maybe the wild card comes out in 28, depending on the information we know. But that's going to be the period where it comes out. Like you say, free hit, I am more of a type to want to chase, you know, use it in a big double week. But the thing about those big double weeks as well, James, is like, if it's a really big double week and there's some of those ones there where, you know, we're expecting upwards of, you know, 8 extra games on top, like that's basically all of your teams, you know, it's like
you don't need to chip them.
You can fall into it. Your team's probably going to have like 11 or 12 double players anyway, and you might want to short it up with some others, but I think that's also a trap. We look at big double game week coming up and thinking that's where I'm going to use my chips, that's going to be the bench boost week,
you might need
that's going to be the free hit week. That's it might not be worth it. It might be, you know, I've always been resistant to the strategy, but like you say, it might be that week where you might want to use the free hit when there aren't many games on, which is really what the chip is designed for, and you might be able to get yourself through, you know, those other weeks. It's all obviously team dependent, isn't it? And where, you know, where you're sitting and what you've got at those times. But I think the biggest thing you're hearing from, like, you know, the people who know more than we do, you know, listen to James on Planet FPL today, like the thing he was hammering home was just stay flexible, you know, don't just look at it and go, okay, this is exactly my plan. I'm going to do this. I'm going to use this chip then, that chip then. Like, it never works out like that. And I think if you go down that road, it ends up a bit of a dead end, doesn't it? You've got to, you know, leave yourself open for those any of these eventualities which could happen.
And like, I have been guilty in the past of making extensive plans for 6 weeks ahead, where I've planned what transfer I'll make in each of those weeks.
Come out.
Yeah, and it's brilliant fun. And to me, actually, that's the most enjoyable part of the game, is doing that. So I do it anyway. But you get to the second week of that, and you've 2 players on a red. You've 2 injuries, and that totally blows the whole thing up. You know what I mean? Or suddenly the Premier League.
It's never a good advantage.
Or I've already planned what I might do in 23, 24, 25. There's a strong chance a Liverpool double will get thrown in the middle of that all of a sudden. They're talking that Liverpool Wolves might happen in one of those weeks. I've no Liverpool players whatsoever, and it's actually, with the way my team is structured, it's very hard for me to get to Liverpool players. So that being announced messes all my plans up. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's fine to plan ahead, and it's good to be aware of what's coming. And as I said, you definitely need to have an idea of those blanks in particular. Like, if you don't suddenly want to come to game week 25 and realize I've only got 4 starters, you need to have some idea of that. Like, don't start bringing in players now who blank in 25 or 28, because you're just making a problem for yourself down the line. And think about teams like Villa. As I said, if you could have a bench of Liverpool, of Villa and Everton players, by the time you get to 25, you'd be in a very strong position, because that means
But then again, Jamesy, it's Villa and Everton, isn't it?
It is, but if you look at Villa's fixtures, they have nice fixtures in all the blank game weeks, and it's like, if you've got Tyrone Mings, a 4.3 million defender, you might get a clean sheet out of him. If you've got Bailey, I know we're talking about IWC Bailey again. He's now 4.5 million. He's cheap as chips. Ridiculous. He's playing up front now. The game, it is different to the start of the season. He's now playing as a striker, basically, in the new system they have. So, as I said, you basically, if you don't have someone on the pitch, you've got no chance. That's what I always say. At least if you've got a player on the pitch, you've got some chance of points. If you've got nobody playing, you're going to get it.
I'm always of the thinking, like, well, even though they're not playing that way, you're still going to get points down the line from, when they do play. So, yeah.
I'd say with Everton as well, there's the hope, and it's a kind of a small hope, but of a new obviously, as always happens sometimes, a new manager boost. Dyche has already got them doing blimp tests. And
I love that. In his shorts.
In his shorts in 7 degrees
7
weather.
degrees, yeah.
Proper manager, that. That's a good sign.
I mean, don't get me wrong, those first 2 games are tough starts.
Yeah, it's rough, isn't it? Arsenal and then to Liverpool away. Like, just throw them away. It's almost good, isn't it? It's like there's no expectation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You could just say, lads, look, all I want to see is some effort here. We're not expecting any points. Show me some effort. And, remember his Burnley team? They were always good for an old clean sheet here and there. Usually you'd have a Burnley player on your bench at the very least, because they were cheap. And if he can get them...
Well, he's got... In it, James Tarkowski and Dwight McNeil, who played under him. And
he's got good... He doesn't have much of an attack, but he has solid defenders. You know what I mean? Like Tarkowski, Cody... players that you could see playing well for him. You know what I mean? So he might tighten, as I said, goals are going to be a problem, but he might at least tighten them up at the back. And game week 25, who do they play? It's Everton. It's Villa. It's a potential double there, So if you have a cheap Everton defender on your bench and the other players are blanking, why not? Have
And Cody's good and Cody's good for a clean sheet, but not only a clean sheet, and it's hence why I added him at a point in the FPL draft. He's good for a goal as well. And it's one of those things. Well. Yeah.
Because he plays loads of passes out from the back. If he keeps a clean sheet, he's usually the guy that'll get 2 or 3 bonus, because his passing percentage is really high, because he's always the guy that plays out from the back for Wolves as well.
That's where I'm mostly paying attention. It's the draft. I was looking at, it won't surprise anyone to know most, at least half of Everton's starting 11 is available in the draft right now in our league. And it was the stats aren't very good, but like you said, Eddie, new manager bounce, solid fixtures after the next 2, a double coming up. For for my proper team, I'm still like, well, who am I shipping out, to bring in one of the Everton lads? But it's a monitor, I'd say, rather than a definite buy right now.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. What else stands out then as far as these fixtures go? You're kicking yourself, Andy. Have you got any chips left? Is triple captain still
No, I got shot of them all, mate. So, me triple captain went week 10, free hit week 3, bench boost week 4, and the new wild card went about 2 weeks after Christmas. But
you're scared at the sight of any of these doubles, mate? Any of them particularly standing out?
I think the only one I'm worried about is that week 25, because I've got like 8 out of my 14, 15 players who are not playing currently.
That's rough.
So it's like United, 3 United. I'll have a triple Newcastle defence. I've got Matoma. I've got Raya and Ben Mee. Yeah, it's one of them. I think I might, ride it out. Just thinking of transfers down the line. I could play, survive on 7 or 8 players, and I'll be happy with that. To be honest,
sometimes it's not worth breaking the team in a blank when you can put like 7 or 8 out.
It's always a low scoring week anyway.
It's one of them, Benno. It's just like, do I just do it for doing sake when I've actually like looking at players who were not playing? A lot of them are my best players. I was like, why would I get shut of them just for bringing him back in the week after on another free transfer when I could use that elsewhere?
Well, it's like, the Newcastle situation, isn't it? You've got them now, so it is what it is. I don't think if you didn't, you'd be recommending people go, triple Newcastle at the back now with, a couple of good fixtures, but then it's Liverpool, a blank, and then City in a double, which is not really a double, but you never know with them. They're so reliable.
Yeah, I want with the Manchester City game, in the past you would have thought, you'd stick a load of City players in, but now Newcastle are a different proposition, aren't they? They could easily beat Man City.
That's it. So yeah, that's the thing. And like for me, obviously, I've got one. Like you said, Jamesie, one eye on the big blank game week 28, and then the ridiculous things that can happen past that as far as what I'll be doing with wild cards and such. But right now, like you said, my team haven't been doing well the last while. But like thinking of my at least immediate plans, I'm looking at the double this week, and I think almost certainly it's going to be Rashford coming in and probably Bruno, depending on which of me big hitters I get rid of. I mean, good. I think most teams are probably in good shape for that Arsenal and City double. Again, it's another one of them. Arsenal are playing City, and City are playing Arsenal. So we'll see whether that cancels itself out by the time we get to it. But I think everyone pretty much is going to have at least 5 out of a possible 6 for that double. I think it's going to come down to the combinations people have, isn't it? Whether you've gone more attack for Arsenal or gone more attack for City, that's going to shake out. But yeah, I've got one eye on that, and then looking forward to like game week 25 and that United blank that's staring at me. It's like, well, yeah, I'll get my United players in now, but it's kind of shook out well. I can use my 24 and 25 transfers to navigate that. So feeling pretty comfortable, James, because that's it, isn't it? That week you mentioned Everton, but Liverpool doubling that week. We'll see what Liverpool look like by the time game week 25 comes in. Couple of easy transfers to be made there. The dare I say it, Salah maybe comes back in for those.
We'll all have them when they double. Yeah,
I think Cousins back around then, Benno. Firmino, I think it said about 18th of February. So
was it you or Gareth who tried to ship him to me in the draft this week? I didn't go for that. But he'll be back by then.
Someone sold them. Yeah.
Oh, must be Andy. Must be gone. Is he out in the?
I got shut of him for that Southampton lad. I just like, I just want a whole team of actually players, not load of red on the bench.
The one other thing I would say to people is, don't just obsess over the doubles, because while you're steaming into United for 22 and steaming into Arsenal and City, there will be players at other teams that have really nice single fixtures. Like I'm looking at, I know they've been pretty poor lately, but I'm looking at Chelsea. They've had a big influx of new players. Potter has had 2 weeks with them on the pitch, on the training pitch now, because they were out of the Carabao, out of the FA Cup, and like he wants to coach more than anything. So he's had 2 full weeks of training with them, which you just don't get at the moment. You look at Chelsea's fixtures for the next 5 or 6: Fulham, West Ham, Southampton. Spurs is tough, fair enough. Then it's Leeds, Leicester, Everton, Villa. That's very, very, very nice. And if they can kind of start getting things together, get these younger new players going, there's chances there. And the other team I'd look at is Spurs. Now, Spurs have City this game week. Fine, fair enough. You wouldn't want to go there. But like, if you're talking about moving on Harry Kane, Benno, like, I have Harry Kane in my team. I'm not even considering doing anything with Harry Kane, because after that, Leicester, West Ham, Chelsea's tough enough. Then after that, Wolves, Forest, Southampton, Everton, Southampton, Brighton, Bournemouth. Very, very nice. Harry Kane's going to score 7 or 8 goals at least in that run. So I would even think it's hard to find defenders at the moment. And if you are moving off Newcastle a little bit or United a little bit because of the blanks coming up, maybe if Spurs can start keeping clean sheets, that might be a place to go for your defense as well. So don't just hyper focus on the game weeks. Like, do look around, because in one of those game weeks that you're hoping Bruno scores 20 points, Harry Kane could score 15 in one game. Or João Felix or Mudryk or someone could start scoring goals for Chelsea or something like that. So, keep an eye on everything else and not just the doubles as well, And like, Chelsea are out of the cup, so they'll play in 25, they'll play in 28, they'll play in 32, So, keep an eye on things like that. I just think Chelsea might be a team we will all be talking about in 2 or 3 weeks' time if they can get a little bit of a turnaround.
They've only really got Europe to worry about, haven't they? With Champions League.
But yeah, I was having a little look in the draft, and there's a couple of players that not 100% sure on that defense right now, but just sitting there open right now.
There are Chelsea,
they'll be snapped up quite quickly. They'll be snapped up.
I tell you, keep an eye on it.
But that's it, you're right, James, because that's the thing as well. It becomes a differential then, doesn't it? Like I say, if me and you were sitting on Harry Kane and other people are moving him on, he has that good week, which you could even have against City, this week with the upheaval over there.
If it wasn't for Haaland, every single player would have Harry Kane this season. You look at the points, like his scores or assists literally nearly more consistently than Haaland nearly, in terms of returning week in, week out. It's just that Haaland has been so exceptional. Yeah,
it's deceiving because you think for the price with Harry Kane, when he gets like 6 to 8 points or less than 10, when it's single digits, you're like, I'm not getting my money's worth. But if you had him for 10 weeks or something like that, it probably would bear out.
And to be honest with Tottenham, he's probably been the best out of their attacking lot. Son's
the only one.
Half the player he was.
And
Gareth tried to give me some.
He's playing so well, Kane, as well. He's trying to get you some.
Yeah.
But Kane, there was one game week there recently, Kane, Palace away. Like, Spurs were absolutely shite in the first half. It was 0-0 at half time. And I was watching because I had Kane, and I was like, I'm not going to get Anthony here. He had 2 chances that were half chances at best. Bang, buried them. 15-pointer. Just like, and he had an assist towards the end as well for Son. It's just like, he is in such good form that even though Spurs are crap, as I said, like, I brought him in at the World Cup, and unless he gets injured, I can't see me taking him out of the team. I'm just going to leave him there and let him tip away nicely with a goal every week. No reason to let go of Harry Kane.
Maybe that's a lesson for me. I'll be thinking about that when we get to our plans. Anything stick out for you, Eddie? Any plans you've got going forward? Any thoughts on any the fixture run for anyone?
I agree with Jamesie. I think Tottenham definitely, after that Man and City one, looked quite spicy and entertaining. I think not only Kane, I think Son finally maybe comes back into form. He seems to be kind of getting goals where he can now.
I'll be ruined not taking that transfer from Gareth. I think he offered me Son for Saka, but it was with I think he was giving me someone for Cancelo, so he was willing
Van
to
Dijk, wasn't
it? Yeah, Van Dijk for Cancelo. I didn't go for it in the end. It felt like a trap, but maybe I'll be.
Yeah, he just wanted Saka. If he's that desperate for Saka, keep him. That'd be my,
Yeah, that's it. I think that tipped me off that.
Yeah, there's a couple of weeks like Wolverhampton after they have Liverpool, they have Southampton, Bournemouth, and Fulham, which looks, they've then got Liverpool, Tottenham, and Newcastle, which would obviously be quite tough. But there are those teams that do have kind of those certain spells, and obviously there's teams who don't really have any potential blank game weeks. Like I said, Villa, Forest, and Chelsea, who all look like there are certain players you'll get stuff from them. I said Leon Bailey, as the IWC favourite and stuff like that. Bournemouth with the boy Dango Ouattara, he got an assist already, and he looked quite exciting in that Bournemouth game. And I think obviously with the amount of signings they've got, Gary O'Neill just needs, again, a bit more time. He's got it now. Maybe they might do something out of it. But as I said, as long as you have these players, and I think for me, it was always in the fantasy draft to get players who are consistently getting at least points on the board, whether it's 1 point or 2 points, as long as they're getting something, it helps goes towards that total in the end, and it could make a massive difference between a win and a loss. So yeah, I kind of echo all you guys in terms of that more than anything. I always go for consistency, as it kind of is for me, and I'm prepared to make the drop if someone only gets like maybe 1 point or comes on kind of maybe it gets taken off or comes on at halftime, which seems to happen for most of my players sometimes. So I'm cursing all these managers when it comes down to looking at like Podence has just scored a goal in another game. The next week he's not even starting, he's on the bench. I'm like, I've already put him in my fucking team. What's the point in this?
5 subs as well, yeah.
But I was just gonna say, we had a couple of shouts in the chat as far as like transfer plans go. We'll go into to quickly our transfer plans in a minute before we look at the big thing, which is the draft, in my opinion, in a second. But Havashek saying there he's reluctantly doing Almiron, Kane, and Fernandez, and Nketiah for a -4. Needs a triple City and Arsenal in game week 23. So yeah, can't afford to sell KDB now. I'm in that same boat with KDB. Like I say, that's why I was considering Kane, but I'll go through that when I go through my team. Jamie Johnson here, good question, saying here he's considering Salah and Mitro to Bruno and Nketiah, or Rodrigo and Kane to Bruno and Nketiah.
I wouldn't do. Oh yeah, Rodrigo's out in it, so What do you reckon, I'd do Salah. Oh God, Salah and Mitro. I would do to Bruno and Nketiah. I'd do that.
Yeah, that could work. What do you reckon, Jamesy?
I would keep Kane. As I said, I would be very, very reluctant to get rid of Kane because. There was a move I could have made this week. I talk about it when we're looking at our teams. It would have involved getting rid of Kane, and it would have been nice in lots of other ways for my team, but I just can't let him go. I just think.
What do you think about the hokey cokey? A lot of people doing that right now. If Jamie gets rid of Salah, you can always bring him back for their double on the line. Yeah. If Kane goes, you're losing him for the City game, but you could bring him back maybe when you don't need those funds to get Bruno. You don't need Bruno anymore. It's a few transfers you're booking in, though, is the thing, isn't it? That's what I'm trying to think of. Like how many -4s are coming in the future if I go that route.
I don't mind moving around midfielders because it's a like for like transfer. But if you're moving out Kane, you have to get him in instead of a premium midfielder is 2 transfers straight away, that kind of a way. Whereas you can just swap. Like basically my plan is KDB to Bruno this week and immediately Bruno back to KDB for the following week. And that's just 1 transfer per week. Nice and easy, nice and straightforward. Whereas if you move Kane out for a cheaper striker, you have to sell the cheaper striker and also make funds elsewhere to afford Kane again. You know what I mean? So that's what makes it complicated. I would actually get rid of Salah and Mitro. I would do even though Rodrigo's injured, deal with Rodrigo next week maybe and get rid of him. But I do Salah and Mitro to Bruno and Nketiah there. But that's just me and my infatuation with Harry Kane at the moment. I just think he's not someone you'd want to get rid of at the moment. And
plus, Rodrigo's out for 2 months, isn't he now?
Yeah, it means you're keeping an injured player, but I mean,
you can get rid of him next week
for an Arsenal midfielder, maybe, because Rodrigo's 6-ish. The Arsenal midfielders are 6-ish as well, so that's the other, or for Mahrez or someone, So I would get rid of Salah and Mitro because I've had Mitro for a while now, and he's kind of gone off the boil since the World Cup as well.
Yeah, it's almost reputation, isn't it? You're keeping him on because you're thinking, he'll come good. It's whether it's really going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, on that point, I suppose, Jamesy, you mentioned there your plans going forwards. This is your team and how it looks at the minute. Triple captain sitting on Marcus Rashford. Is that set? Is that decision made?
It's 95% made, yeah. Thankfully, you can reverse the triple captain, which I tested. I tested it out. I was like, can I reverse this and change my mind? Or am I? Because otherwise, sometimes you're locked in with FPL. You press a button and that's it. But you can, so I can change it if I want to. But so the transfers first, I did KDB to Bruno, and because I feel like it's a nice fixture for United attack-wise as well. So I'd like to have Bruno and Rashford playing against Palace and Leeds at home. And then I got rid of Mitrovic and I brought in Nketiah this week as well. I could have left that till next week, but Everton away for Arsenal attack, I kind of think that's a nice, and like it would be like if I didn't do that move, I'd be starting Almiron, who I've kind of lost faith in. So I said, you know what, get in Nketiah a week earlier. Maybe he'll get a couple against Everton and justify the transfer. And I know I'll want him next week anyway for the double, you know. So that was my two moves. It actually freed up a little bit of money because Nketiah is a little bit cheaper than Mitrovic as well. And the week after, I'll just flip Bruno back to KDB and I'll be happy with that for the double again, you know. So I'm trying to keep it very straightforward, simple, logical moves at the moment, not trying to do anything too fancy. I think there's good logic behind both of those transfers. They're two free transfers. They're not costing me anything. And then the triple captain, I just think Rashford is the form player in the game at the moment. I think he's on an unbelievable hot streak, especially at home. I saw some statistics about XG conceded since the World Cup, and both Palace and Leeds are in the bottom 3 of the league for giving up chances at the moment. It's a double home fixture. United have won 11 games in a row at home. They're playing very well. Rashford's playing very well. The other option is Haaland next week. I'd be terrified in the double game week watching Haaland, but I just think those two fixtures are too nice to ignore, you know. And if I leave the triple captain till later, there's quite a strong chance that any week there's a good double, I want to use a different chip. That's the other thing. Like I still have a wild card to use on a double game week. I have a free hit I might want to use. I have a bench boost. So I might run out of weeks to use my triple captain, you know. So, and will a better pair of fixtures come up for any player than Palace and Leeds at home? It just feels right, you know. And
sometimes that triple captain gets in the way, doesn't it? You know, especially with planning.
It is. And it's overrated. It's massively like a free hit and a wild card are so much more powerful. Like you can make 50 or 60 points on a good free hit or a wild card if you use it properly. On a triple captain, if Rashford gets 10 to 12 points, I'm pretty happy with that. If he gets a goal and an assist or a goal even in one of those two games, I'm happy enough. And also, it's 5 points for a midfielder to score a goal. You know, that all counts. Like that's extra. If United keep a clean sheet, that's another point, which is 3 points, you know. So it all kind of adds up. And yeah, I just think it's the best. It's just, and then it's done with. It's over, and I don't have to think about it anymore. Yeah.
A lot of people seem to be going with that. It's either this week with Rashford or maybe Bruno, and next week with Haaland. Like it feels like the window. It's one of those. It can, you know, Andy, you've used yours already early in the season. It is one of those that can just burn that hole in your pocket, affect your plans going forward. When literally, we've all got to remember, you can use it at any point in the season. At any point in the season, you can use a free transfer to bring in the player you want to triple captain or at worst to a -4. It's not something to waste too much time planning around with wild cards and looking too deep into.
I think I used mine on like bloody Salah when they were against like Nottingham Forest or Bournemouth, and he got bugger all. Really.
If you had your chip, Andy, would you use it this week?
Would I use it this week? Probably. Yeah, just follow suit with everyone else with Rashford, because you know you look at them two fixtures. They should win them easily. United at the moment. Crystal Palace aren't much cop, and Leeds, they should score goals against them. With my team,
set up nicely here this week, Andy. Looking at that team, like that could be another easy Newcastle clean sheet.
Yeah,
the all United players with doubles like Odegaard come in, Matona come in. You know, Kane, you never know, might sneak a goal there. Like there's. You're seeming so off here this week. I like it, even without the triple captain.
Yeah, so I took out De Bruyne and put Bruno Fernandes in. So I've got like £3 million in the bank now. So I'm looking like for next week, taking Martinelli out and putting Bukayo Saka in. And I think that'll still leave me with like an extra like million, and that. Then it's just thinking down the line with that, you know, the blank game week where no one's playing, probably taking out Ben Mee and putting in like Rico Lewis, like James said earlier, maybe an Aston Villa defender. Mitrovic is maybe someone I have been looking at options of getting him out. Ivan Toney's still around somehow.
I love that.
Who else is that? Ferguson, but he got injured last week. There's not much in the cheap options from a striker point of view, but got to keep it.
And Ketia?
Yeah, but then again, Jesus will have risen back, won't he? So
he's a good way away.
Well, you're one of the few that can do that. Yeah, Andy, you're one of the few who can do that because most of us are locked in, aren't we, Jamesy? With the 3 Arsenal, you could make that move. You know, you don't have to. You don't have to shuffle around. You know, it could be done.
Yeah, Ray, like I say, Ray has done well for me in net. I've still got dangerous Danny Ward on the bench, but there's no point really. No point really changing him. One move I did look at, for the City double week was Ray to Editon, and I'd still have money left over. So yeah, I think I'm in a good position. Matoma against Bournemouth at home. Could get a couple with that one.
Right, another one to James's point before about us all concentrating on the doubles, and you're letting that go, aren't you? Because you're like, oh, they're looking good, and yeah, they got Matoma at an amazing price, but I've got to use my transfers elsewhere. I've got to get the double players in. Like,
people off, I think.
Yeah,
they blank in 25 and 28, but at the same time, you're missing points. You're saying, oh, I won't get them because they blank in 25. If he's getting 8 points every week until 25, then it's like, well, he's more than justified the transfer anyway,
Yeah, but I think at the moment that my team looks really, really set up well, for the next couple of weeks, and just see how we go.
Definitely. For me, I've got the captaincy sitting on shore at the minute. That's just in case I get hit by a bus. Obviously, there'll be better United players coming into my team. You never know. You got to have that bus team.
Option, Luke. Sure.
Website might crash again.
Yeah, that's it. So it's worth doing just for now. So yeah, it's always a good lesson. Just have it on someone you're comfortable with. But yeah, Bruno and Rashford are almost certainly coming. I think Jamesy's taught me out of using Kane to make that work, so I can straightforward take Almiron and De Bruyne out and do that. And obviously, taking De Bruyne out comes with its risks, and obviously with the City Arsenal double coming up, that might sound a bit wild, but I think as much as I'd advise against booking a transfer in, I think I can do it without hits. I think if I've got 2 transfers in the bank. This week I can do Rashford and Bruno for free. Next week, yes, I hate to book in advance, but at that point I can either bring De Bruyne back or I can bring Mahrez in, which is what I might end up doing. And then I've got a lot more leeway there money-wise with, like I say, Kane soaking up so much of the money. I think I can do that and be comfortable. The thing it leaves me open to, like you say, it's missing out on the Brighton assets, never really getting fully behind Newcastle outside of a Trippier at the back, but, it's a little bit late for that. I'm relatively happy with that. I'm relatively settled, unless I last minute decide to go the Kane route. The thing with Kane was always, well, I can't go to Arsenal, or they got the 3 Arsenal players, so it can't be in Ketchup. Who was it going to be that I was going to downgrade them to? Maybe Tony, to make that money up to bring in the United midfielders, when actually the path of least resistance is probably just to switch out Almiron and De Bruyne. So I think that's what I'm doing. I'm glad I've got Ake in. We didn't really talk too much about Cancelo. Like I've avoided the Cancelo problem with switching him to Ake a few weeks ago. Feels like the work of genius, unlike Pep, which feels like the work of a madman. Like, I almost feel like we've got to pour out a bit of liquor here for Cancelo, FPL legend. And he's just gone. He's just gone. He doesn't exist anymore.
And in last night's match for Bayern Munich, he got an assist as well.
Of course he did.
He would have had 24 points on his debut for Bayern if he was still here.
There you go. There you go.
It's like a player that I'd say we all had, like game week 1, if we all went back to our teams, I'm sure we all had Cancelo. I'm sure we did,
How do we fit him in, sort of thing?
And he's gone. If you had said at that point he was going to be loaned out to Bayern Munich in the winter window, you would have said, no way, like, not a hope. It's half of me thinks Pep is mad, but half of me respects it as well, in terms of That's a Fergie move. Like he has a player who's really talented, one of his best players, but also his attitude is wrong. And it's like, if there's a bad attitude, get it out of the club before it infects everybody else, you know.
Yeah,
so
it's
I see Pep's logic as well in terms of you can't have that on the training pitch, you know.
It's very similar, Jamesy, to like what Ten Hag's done at United. Well, he got rid of the bad egg Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Like Rashford was late for training and he dropped him to bench, and it's working a treat for him. You need
it. And like Pep has been hinting in press conferences for weeks now about player desire, and talking about how he has some players who've won 5 league titles for him, and have they lost their edge? Whereas I've got this guy, Rico Lewis, who's won nothing yet, and he's so hungry to win games and all that. And I don't know. I just feel like there's things going on at Man City that aren't quite right. Maybe there's a little, like, Pep's football requires everybody to be 100%, or the whole. It's a very delicate set of house of cards. And if there's a 5% drop off in work rate and pressing and effort, the whole thing falls apart very easily. And like, I think he must have, maybe he sensed that in Foden, and that's why he dropped him. He's clearly sensed it in Cancelo, because he's ran him out of the club. You know what I mean? So, a big one. And it must have fucked with a lot of people. Like, a lot of people just kept Cancelo through all those games where he was dropped, assuming eventually he will come back in. Like, it's Cancelo, you know, he's one of the best defenders in the game. But like, if he was in my team and I'd made my transfers or had my plans already in place, I'd be disgusted now, like, having to deal with that as well. Like, some people might have him, Doherty in their team, and then Rodrigo. You know, they're all reasonably highly owned players. Like, imagine that landing on you in one game week. Like, it must be heartbreaking.
The Doherty thing is so silly because it's Tottenham's own fault that they then had to, because obviously they had used too many loans. So
they just cancelled his contract.
Instead of just, cancelling the loan and keeping him, they weren't, we'll just cancel your contract all the way and off you go. And then he's gone and done a Trippier, obviously, and it'll be interesting to see how he does over there.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's great for Ireland.
Go for him.
In terms of managers as well, I mean, the way Pep and Ten Hag have handled themselves and how they're dealing with players compared to like Klopp, who seems to just kind of, it doesn't have a lot left, but he's just kind of letting still carry on with what he's got. And for a couple of friends I talk about it, it's the seventh season syndrome with Klopp.
Yeah.
And this time it's affecting them massively. Because their team, their players are just not performing whatsoever. It's why I think now I'm going to try and stay away from as many kind of Liverpool players as possible. I think GAPPL going there I don't think he's going to excel at all in that team. Because obviously if Diaz comes back and then Jota comes back at some point, he'll just be in again a pecking order race at that point. So,
Well, speaking of these crazy managers, and you mentioned there, Jamesie, about Cancelo. You know, imagine having him in your team. Imagine about having him in the draft, mate. Imagine drafting him first fucking round and being stuck with him. Yes, that is the position I'm stuck in right now. And we'll get to the state of my team. That's a painful one. I feel like I should get, like, I don't know, first dibs on somebody or something like that.
It's a rough one, yeah.
Just sat there with a red flag, like I say, draft pick 1. He was either 1 or 2 for me. That's how early I went for him. It was painful for me, but yeah, the draft overall, the pain is soothed for me a bit. I'm doing a little bit better, but you can tell why he's on. Who's doing particularly well in the draft there. Look at that in the lofty heights of number 1. There's Eddie Sideburns. How's that happened, Eddie? What's going on?
I mean, if you look at the team, there's 3 names, and they don't get taken off anytime soon. And it's Nick Pope, Sven Botman, and Fabian Schär.
Yeah.
It works. It really, if it doesn't, as I said, if I don't have a Newcastle clean sheet, at least getting the 2 points from them. If it's because normally Newcastle have been very good at not conceding so many goals, it kind of is a bit of a comfort. The problem I have, if you look at the team, is like Maxman's on the bench for the majority of times he plays. Podence is kind of here and there. Podence is one I just kind of added. Bentancur was injured. Ruben Diaz hasn't played a lot. And Maddison was out for a while, but I still kept them on because I knew that when time would come, I would use them, and they would be, they would get back to starting lineup. the third striker has always been an issue because I picked Sekou, Mara, Edward, and Kane, and Mara's gone. Edward's still there, but I'm not finding. I had Costa, I had Jimenez. I've now
Strikers
got,
are the hardest.
I've had both Jimenez and a couple of Palace forwards. Yeah,
I've picked up the Rutter, the boy from Leeds. I think he could do something quite well. The team just, Kane doing quite well, March doing incredibly well. Obviously, pointed up the 19 points there. Having it's all, as I said, when I look at it and when I go and look in my transfers and my transactions, I look at consistency and I look at who has the most points. Are they consistently getting the 90 minutes? Because I said there's moments where there'll be players who won't play a single. Like I said, Malacia didn't play a single thing, but there are other players who are making up for it. I even had Aubameyang, which again was a waste of a time.
I heard it was
couple of 1 pointers there.
What I do,
that's the thing with the strikers in it. It's desperate when it's in the draft.
I throw at dartboards with certain players and hope that it sticks, but the ones who stay in that team you'll consistently see are the triangle of doom, which is Pope, Botman, and Shar. I can't, and it just seems to have consistently worked. There are Saliba as well. I really think when he, because Arsenal are also quite good defensively. A clean sheet comes from him, or a point comes from, or a good couple of points, or even a goal sometimes comes from him. But yeah, I've done.
Thing that's going well for you, Eddie, as well. It's like even a week like this, like it's one of them. You're grinding out results. 35 this week against JP would have lost the majority of the league.
Oh yeah.
But you had JP, so it kind of worked out.
I think your last defeat, Eddie, was against me, which was that 78-76 week, weren't it?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a week that if you looked at both of our results, we would have clearly beaten kind of nearly every other team.
Yeah.
And it's, as I said, I've lost to Benno in that week, but it's like it's not been. As I said, it's not. I think other people also kind of not getting results has kind of led me to still being in that position and still being somewhere high up. And Jamesie kind of put up the great point. Kane, you think he doesn't do anything and then he'll score.
Yeah.
And I think he's well valid of the first round.
An asset like that who doesn't, like in the draft, you're better off with a guy who scores 6 to 8 points every week than a guy who scores a 15 and then a 2 and a 1. You're just a steady flow of points every single week for all your games, and he's the perfect draft asset, I think, because it's just steady flow of points every week for you.
In the draft as well, you've got to have a different brain, I think, because I have been looking at it in the terms of all the doubles coming up and stuff. Like it's 3 points. That's all you're getting out of a double. You can score 100 in the double game week and beat someone who got 10 points or beat someone who got 90 points. You still get 3. So you've got to kind of have a different mentality, haven't you, with it? And just like you say, consistency is the key.
Yeah, it's really why, as I said, the first thing you go to transactions and you look at it, you look at who's getting the points and you see if they're consistently playing. It's why I had Iwobi in that team for so long, because I knew I was getting 2 points automatically off the board. And it was like, if that's working out for me, that sign. I mean, that first one getting Shar for Ait Nuri, and just obviously because I'd lost that week, I was higher up in that what's it called, in the
waiver.
The
waiver
wire.
wire.
Well, now for the last couple of games and the last couple of ones, I've been the bottom of the waiver. I'm 12. So I then have to look at it as I need to be very careful with who I'm going to make as my number one attempt, because I don't know if I'm going to consistently get them. And then kind of pick names, because there were people I picked and I thought, right, people aren't going to, someone will take these people. I've picked Rico Henry up for this week to replace Tete, the Kenny Tete, the Fulham defender. And it's just because I know that Rico Henry's playing consistently, whereas Tete may not start.
Yeah.
And as I said, if I get there, with that team, when I did lose those games, it's looking back and going, right, I'm lower now, a bit higher up the waiver. Who can I get? Who's available? Podence coming to me was great. That was a great pickup, because then he went on and scored. March is again a good pickup because, quietly Brighton and that, everyone's obviously all about Matoma, and that's great. March is just as good as well if you see how he's been performing. And And as I said, it's, the fact I've now got Bentancur back, Maddison back. I think Diaz is going to probably start playing for City again. It kind of means that I'm having headaches about who to pick.
It's a good squad.
It's good, and it means like I'm very rarely going to drop someone unless I know that I'm not going to get much from them anymore, or they're injured. Really, more than anything. So it's having to be very shrewd and very careful about the people you're dropping and decisions about that. So I'm doing fine. I don't think this will last. I mean, I'm glad that I'm 10. I mean, there's one person who scored more points than me, and it's Gareth in third, and I'm really nervous about.
That's what hurts, isn't it, when that happens?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to go to Andy next because Andy's picked up most of the players in the waiver wire. But to that point, Eddie, you've made there, I've got to go to Jamesie at the opposite end of the table in 12th. But look at your total, 813 points.
There's only 4 managers at more points than me. I should be 5th. If this was a game of points, I'd be in 5th. But maybe that's my mistake. I'm playing it with a normal FPL mentality, and I'm not playing it with the mentality of get me points this week. You know what I mean? But, like it's one of I was saying to Andy before we started, like there was a period there around the World Cup I won 3 in a row, and I thought finally now it's coming together for me. But then I lost 3 in a row, and that's the way it's been. Like I can't get a really good win of 4 or 5 in a row, which will get me up the table, and like I claw my way up to 3rd from bottom. But like JP and Connor are winning all the time as well. So anytime I feel like I'm getting a jump on them, I look and they've won their second game as well. Like it's a really, really competitive league. And like I keep looking at my team on paper and thinking it's not a bad team. Like it's like I've double Liverpool. The killer for me is double Liverpool defense. Like I would have drafted those guys, I'd say maybe in the first 5 rounds of the draft, thinking I'd done well. And like Liverpool have they can't keep a clean sheet. It's a very rare week I get a Liverpool. I actually got one from them last week. I've double Arsenal defense, which is quite good. I have Thiago Silva, who's a solid asset. I've had various City defenders in the last while. It's my midfield is really hurting me. I can't get good midfielders in. I've kept Bowen the whole way through because I'm still thinking about last season. Finally came good last week, 16-pointer. But then like I've had Rodri all the way along for Eddie's reason of it's 2 or 3 points. He's the only City player that seems to play every single week regardless. So that's a 2 or 3 pointer. And then I've cycled in and out various midfielders after that, and none of them have done a whole lot. Like Mitrovic has been my one shining light, but even he's gone off the boil now as well. Like I've discussed it with myself last week. I lost to Matty by 2 or 3 points, but Watkins was Watkins was yellow flagged, and I think they said in the press conference he wouldn't play, so I put him as 3rd sub. And if I played him, I would have beaten Matty, you know. So it's like I got 52 points and I lost a game, like for fuck's sake. And I would have beaten everyone else last week except Matty.
Matty would 2 points in it.
Bloody Matty Edwards and his Alving and his Erling Haaland every single time.
Oh, it is it's the Haaland Alvarez.
And he's not even changing his team. He's not even trying, and he keeps beating.
Go shit.
I'm looking at him thinking I could drag him down into a relegation battle, and just when I think I'm watching him and he's losing, thinking great, and then Haaland just goes mental, and then he wins, and he goes on a run and wins his next 2 or 3 games. Like so, I'm watching you, Benno. I feel like I can drag you down, Benno, into a relegation battle. It's yourself and Will. I think we can drag down to myself and JP and Connor and make a real battle of it for the rest of the season.
See, I think I've been pulling away. Like that in my mentality has been I've been pulling up. But look at there's no point difference in it, is there? I'm at 26, but I'm 3 ahead of Will, 3 ahead of JP. Yeah. Nothing in it, isn't it? At the top, there's not much in it either.
Yeah, it's a great league. Like the top 5 are
the Scottish Premier League, innit?
Yeah,
the good 6 and
the top 5 and the bottom 6, kind of.
Yeah. How's you're going for you, Andy? Obviously, I mentioned there, like we can look at your team and how you're doing, but I don't think this looks like your team anymore. Didn't you literally bring in every new player in the Premier League this week?
I think I've, you know, my issue where I've lost a couple of weeks is because of Liverpool. They're either been injured, like your Darwin, your Firmino, and Salah hasn't been firing, so that's where I've lost those like couple of game weeks.
He says here he had
yeah. So I got him off Chris Elliott in about week 13 or 14, and that was when Rashford wasn't doing brilliantly.
Oh, yeah,
and he just wanted to get shut to Salah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I thought,
he's a United fan, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I was like, I've got Salah now. That brilliant stuff, and. Yeah, Brennan Johnson, he's done great for me since I've stuck him in for Notts Forest. He's had a good haul over the last 3 weeks. Ethan Pinnock as well for Brentford, like I've said earlier with them, been getting clean sheets. Flappy Ansky, I think I got him off yourself, Benno.
Oh, yeah.
You know when I need
we've done some good deals, mate.
When I needed, that time when I needed a goalkeeper and no one, and you give me Fabianski. Thanks very much for that one, mate.
I owed you one.
Who else could overread? He's not done too bad. But I've got rid of half of them now. A
lot of free agents is what you're saying that'll be available next week. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes,
who's in the free agent pool out of this lot?
Right, so I got rid of Malacia to yourself for Wan-Bissaka, because Wan-Bissaka's been playing a lot. Got rid of Thomas Partey and brought in Sancho for United. It's mainly because it's a double game week and I might get 4 points. And I'm playing Chris Elliott, who's got United players as well. So it's just to counteract that. Brought that McKennie in from Leeds, who I said earlier I think might do all right. Gross, I brought in, swapped him. You've got Martinelli now, Benno. I'm just not fancying Martinelli going forward. Trossard, I remember so I had him last week. I got him off Gareth. I can't remember who I sent the other way for that one.
Send him my way, mate. He's got a red and white shirt on. I'll have him.
I took Bobby Firmino out for that Uinachu from Southampton. Who else have I brought in? I took Mendy out for Chelsea and brought Wayne Hennessy in to play for 2 games. I tried to get shut of him for Keylor Navas, but Cooling's got him now. But
I tried to get him as well. Yeah.
I think I put in about 15 proposals.
There's only 11 players on the team.
I think
just to see what I got in the end. I put all the Chelsea ones in that Badershield, the Enzo Fernandez. I put in for him. It's just see what I got, and I think I ended up with about half a dozen, which isn't too bad.
Oh, I like it, mate. Well, there'll be a lot of extra players in free agency in a minute. We'll get to Abhishek's question in a second. But yeah, to have a quick look at my lot, I might as well show you what I look like now going forwards. Look at that. Martinelli, Saka, Xhaka, and Nketiah. I've somehow landed on, lads. I'm feeling confident.
That's a good team.
That's a good team now.
I know it's a good 11, isn't it? I know, I'm quite happy. Garnacho's obviously a bit of a point for this week. Just thinking, we get 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there over 2 games.
2 or 3 points,
yeah. Pacey player might do something, but yeah, I'm quite happy. Obviously, the United defense that was part of the bargain. Yeah.
How are you not up the top, Benno, with that team?
Yeah, I'm quite happy. I've quietly been building a little bit of an actual starting 11. But it's a bit like the Arsenal side. Like it's like Xhaka and Nketiah. I picked both of them up as free agents earlier in the season, back when it was like, no one expected Granit Xhaka to be doing anything, but it was like, I think we talked about it at the time, Jamesie, he's an Arsenal player, they're doing well, he's gonna shape, he's gonna hover up some points, so pulled him in.
And like Eddie said, 90 minutes every week, guaranteed. And that's worth its weight in gold. If you're winning a game by 2 or 3 points.
Thingy will be a good one, won't he? Jorginho. To pick up your 2 points and the odd penalty when he does play.
The only issue with Zach is obviously his cards. That's really all you're looking for. That's the only concern. But he seems to have been a lot more calmer. I think one of the shrewd pieces of business that you've done, even though I'm surprised he's still not been hit with a suspension yet, is Ivan Toney.
I can't believe that happened.
Where did you get him from?
It was from Connor, wasn't it? I can't remember what Connor offered, but it was like what I ended up giving Connor. But like, I just had a feel. I was like, we might stick around, Tony. It was part of like a double transfer. I'd have to look back now. I can't quite remember, but yeah, like I expected to have him, for maybe a week or two after the Christmas. What's even the update on that? What's like? Is there anything to it?
Just nothing. It's just been. It's the weirdest thing ever. They charged him and then just radio silence. So I don't know. Yeah.
Well, he might last a while. So there we go. Oh, so I'll try.
Neil Mopay.
Tony Mopay that went through there, 16th of November. So
Neil
you gave him Mopay and you got Tony.
Yeah, Mopay was another one I hoovered
that's
up
robbery.
Off the waiver wire. Looks really bad now. At the time, it wasn't so crazy because no one expected Tony to keep playing. But yeah. Lindsay says here, obviously parity means Zach is likely to play more defensively. So there is that. But yeah, I've been overall quite happy with my lot. So I'm feeling confident going forward. But will I be pulled into that relegation battle? There's always
not with that team. We won't. Who are you playing this week?
Who have I got this week? Let's see. Perishit's another one, by the way. I was going to say that. He's another early transfer in. That hasn't worked out. But hey, not bad bench fodder for this week. Me and Connor head-to-head. Gareth and Jordan. Andy and Chris Elliott. Matty and Chris Lene. Eddie and Will Cooling.
Go on, Eddie.
The Scottish Derby? No?
I wish he would have kept Ronaldo in his bloody team, the idiot. But,
I have to beat you. If I lose to JP, I think I'm fucked. I'm completely stranded at the bottom if I lose this one.
Gotta climb out. Can't have you relegated, James. Hopefully we'll still be doing this podcast next year. We need to keep you in the mix, but you can't get.
I just go for a cup of tea at this point next season.
To a runner. Quickly then, before we look at finally the GRAPPL League, Abhishek asks, he can get triple United, City, and Arsenal for their doubles in 22 and 23, while not losing Kane with an additional -4. It gives them what's that?
Nonto is that Leeds player.
Oh right, yeah.
I think he's flavour of the month, isn't he, at the moment? Nonto.
But the thing is, with Rodrigo being out for 2 months, there's gonna be space in that Leeds team. But with Sinistera coming back,
Bamford's now back.
I think when they played against Accrington Stanley in the FA Cup, it was a front two of Bamford and Rutter. So I don't know whether that's what they're going to go for next. But Nyonto is talented. I just it's a bit of it can be up and down,
If he can do if he can get 3 doublers for those weeks and keep Kane, -4 isn't bad. It's not a bad hit. I think taking hits on the weeks of doubles, if it leads you to having 3 players from all those, like there are 3 good teams, and if 3 players doubling up on all those teams, I think -4 is fine for that. And Ganonto is not a bad player to have because if he's your sub striker, then he's someone that can probably play for you in 25 as well. So I don't mind that. If it's only -4 you're taking to keep Kane and get doubles from all those guys, yeah, go for it. Yeah,
that's the thing. And if you go the other route, like there's a -4 here, but surely there's a -4 in your future. If you don't go that route and don't go there and do get rid of Kane, you might want him back. There might be it's thinking of what are those hits going to be in the next few weeks. So maybe a -4.
Yonto makes up the 4 points if he plays both games, and then you potentially anything you get anything rest from that's a bonus.
Yeah, and he's doubling.
So there's some logic there, definitely. But just to wrap things up, we'll take one quick last look at the GRAPPL League. Both top and bottom, as we said earlier. Mark Bleakley, search out for him. Assume you don't know him either, Eddie. We're trying to track him down as our number one. But I didn't give him credit earlier. Adam Abdul, one of our patrons there at Damsky on Twitter, still sitting pretty there in second, doing extremely well, just ahead of you, Jamesie. 30-odd points in that one there. Dan Duca, as we said, the Romanian, there or thereabouts. His time at the top might be over. That's you're welcome, mate. Thanks for that. But yeah, trying to think of any other familiar names. Jordan slipping down a little bit in 15th.
I just love some of these team names like Cesc People and No Dingoes Below.
Borussia Teeth is a good one.
Brewster's Busters from James Brewster. I like that. Yeah, there's can't see any of the rest of us.
Blades trains. Woohoo! I'm back to show Blades trains.
JP 41st.
There's JP.
Yeah.
Gareth.
Green Arrows. Look at the two lads.
I'm shocked Gareth didn't call in tonight. I thought he'd be wanting to brag.
He's been steadily rising up, Gareth, since the World Cup as well. He's had a few good weeks.
Yeah,
I think he played an early wild card maybe or something like that a couple of weeks ago.
He plays his own way. Gareth does. He doesn't pay attention to FPL content.
No content creators, nothing.
Yeah, he watches by the beat of his own drum. I like that. But yeah, that's the top end of the league. Bottom end of the league is also always fun to have a look at. Roberto Carlos is still rock bottom there, 167. I don't think that's changing. But yeah, in danger of getting sucked into the mire there is Matty, 155th. We tried to give him some tips, Jamesie. Don't think he's listened.
He's not doing the business, literally.
No, he's not. It's good to not see Will's name on this last page.
Yeah.
Well done, Will.
Yeah, Will's been doing all right last few weeks.
Climbing out. Just looking at Matty, no transfers last week. One transfer the week before. So he's still playing no transfers the week before. Every other week he pays a bit of attention. I think that's Matty's current logic.
When he remembers.
Yeah, that's it. If he listens to this, any advice for him, James, before we go? What should he sort out?
Cancelo and
Solanke, probably, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the big one, isn't it? Might need a wild card here. Might need to sort that out. Oh well, the draft.
Again, it's not a bad team at all.
Yeah, there's something to it.
The bench is a problem.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I get where he's going with like Begovic, and obviously he's looking at the the numbers obviously and how much millions he's got to play with, but yeah, there's just so much of that could be even a quick fix.
Darwin.
Yeah.
Get rid of Darwin.
There's no money at stake in that one, so maybe that's why he's.
That's why he doesn't care. Yeah.
But there we are. Yeah, been a great fun, lads, to get back on the horse. So there will be more of these coming forward. We definitely didn't want this to die off. Hopefully, we'll have Chris Lynn on with us next time. But Eddie, it's been great having you on, mate. Do you want to tell people where they can hear you talk about real football every now and again? Also, when you do.
Every now and then, you can find me. The Arn and Eddie experience with Arn Furious, who's currently jet flying away to numerous places and leaving me in miserable places. I think he went to go see the last game, or one of the last games that's taking place, the San Siro. So
I think
definitely
was out there, was he?
Both of them went out. They went to 2 games. So definitely Arn has a great series where he talks about football grounds and the experiences of when he goes away and stuff like that. You can find that, I think, on arnfurious.com. You can find me at Eddie Sideburns. I end up tweeting a lot of shit that people tell me to then end up deleting in my DMs. So, but yeah, other than that, that's it. Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Great having you on. Andy, anything to plug, mate?
Just follow me on Twitter, Oggy Part 3. You can follow me wrestling/drinking podcast at GCP Podcast 1. We just done a review of a show in Huddersfield called Tidal Wrestling. Who'd thought we'd be back there one year?
a very non-controversial podcast that's never had any
never done anything wrong.
No trouble at all.
I mean, on my podcast, I once kept shouting at Aaron Ramsey and accusing him of killing celebrities. So,
well, there's some truth to that.
That's definitely a thing,
Jamesie, anything to say? Follow your team on FPL. How about that? Just copy Jamesie. Do a Let's Talk FPL.
That's it. Follow my team and Twitter at Jamesie_2015, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, follow me on Twitter at BensonRichardE. And yeah, if you don't already subscribe, the audio feed will be updated with this and all of our previous episodes and any we do going forward. But yeah, thank you folks for tuning into the live stream. We'll catch you again next time.
Casemiro.
Good.